Well, folks, welcome on into the Central Committee stream with your host Mike from PA. We are live once again. How are all you doing today? Wow. Hey, it's March 6th, 2025. How's everybody doing? I'm just I legitimately, and I don't know how to say this. Like, I don't know how to I have to tell you folks that I would say that I don't have enough time, man. It's happening too fast. The Democrats are not even giving us even a little bit of space to operate. They're on full-blown collaborator mode. I was looking through an article that was published by the Atlantic yesterday from Slotkin, and I realized that it came to me like a flash that they're gonna try to target basically anybody who organizes. The Democrats are not just like, you know, like basically anyone who organizes on anything. Being like a normie lib isn't going to protect you at all. And the other thing is, like, I've always been the type of person who thinks of the CIA and FBI as active personal threats, but I think they're going to the next level. Why don't we start off with that article and you guys can sit, and then Elon Musk, Destiny and Ethan Klein are apparently trying to work with Elon Musk to target Hassan. Ethan Musk, yeah, Elon, and you know, I was sitting back and I was saying this the other day that, you know, Hassan really underestimates his importance, and it seems like the right wingers don't underestimate it. And there's a very clear fascist liberal alliance that is forming up. The Democrats are not trying to win anymore. They're just trying to survive. And they're going to throw all of us under the bus. And this is not some sort of like conspiracy theory or anything. I'm going to read you this. I just tweeted it. This is basically how I feel today. Which is, it seems pretty clear to me that Democratic politicians are no longer trying to win. Oh fuck! They hair. God damn it! How did that happen? I just typoed. They are just personally trying to survive. They are going to offer up their base to the fascists in order to protect themselves. He underestimates Ethan's mania. He underestimates Asmin's ideological convictions. It makes sense why he's been attacking Hassan lately. It's on Elon's behalf. Yeah, no, I think that Hassan is dangerously naive at this point. And I say that out of love for him, like out of like a friendship and love and concern. Like yesterday when we were talking about Asmin, I kind of intervened in the discussion a lot, chat, because Asmin Gold, as far as I'm concerned, without him outright saying he's a Nazi, he's done enough for you to have a reasonable suspicion he's a Nazi, but exactly in the way that an alt-righter would do it, in the sense of like, oh, it's haha ironic how I have Anders Breivik's WoW account. Oh, haha, it's ironic how I use the dog whistle about early life. It's ironic that he says Jewish is the opposite of German, if you know what he means. You know, it's just ironic how he's friends with Stay Safe, an open white supremacist. It's just ironic the way that what was the other fascist thing he did? Oh yeah, he said he wanted a final solution for the Germans for immigrants in Germany as he was promoting the alt-right fascist party AfD. He's a centrist, guys. I mean, at a certain point, like one or two of those things would be edgy and kind of off. But just the multiple Nazi dog whistles, the deep cut of knowing Anders Breivik's WoW account name, and then on top of that, naming your character after that as a fucking public figure. Like, this is not a confused, oh yeah, if you would have salute the right way, join the Discord. Like, there's just too many pieces of evidence. Like, it's ridiculous. And like, Anders Breivik killed kids. Okay, this isn't some sort of brave Nazi soldier or something. You know, this is a guy who went to a summer camp of kids and killed unarmed kids. Like, what's the humor there? That is school shooter shit. That is school shooter shit. I think everybody understands that the Democratic Party is discredited, And basically it comes down to this. Do you want the left to be the opposition to Trump, or you want there to be no opposition to Trump? And most liberals are coming down, like in power and wealth, are coming down on the side of no opposition to Trump. That is that's what's happening. That's the decision. Do you want the left to be the opposition to Trump, or do you want no opposition to Trump? And they're coming down on the side of no opposition to Trump. I mean, it is what it is. I don't know what else to say. I'm like stuttering. I'm going to read you this article from The Atlantic. Am I surprised by this? I think what I'm surprised by is the vehemence. It's the vehemence of the Democrats' desire to surrender to Trump. Like normally, like I thought they would continue on with the kind of performative resistance shit. But the way they have just so thoroughly and viciously joined in on attacking their own base. There's a saying that I've said for a long time. Republicans fear their base. Democrats hate their base. And I've never seen it more clear than right now. How big of a following do I have on X? I don't know, 40-some thousand. It's crazy how disheveled, no media time, crooked dentures Bernie got more views on that than Slotkin with media. Dems are... Yeah, because nobody wants this. I'm sorry for yelling, but the advice Elisa Slotkin didn't take. The Michigan senator wants to set a new tone for the Democratic resistance. Okay, let's read this. I want you to understand something that I think is very clear, is that if you support Slotkin, you are my personal enemy. Like, this isn't a political disagreement. We're beyond that now. If you're a Fetterman supporter or a Slotkin supporter or a Biden supporter, you're my personal physical enemy. Like it's just the reality. Right around the time that Donald Trump was arriving at the U.S. Capitol to address the joint session of Congress, the longest such speak. By the way, the CIA agent Dems want to destroy the left. I mean, that's the best way to put it. I mean, that's what it is. I think that we need to do something about these people, and I'm not sure what that means electorally because she just got elected. But I told you guys that she was a big problem. I said that they're basically trading a relatively decent Michigan senator for another mansion cinema. And Michigan, how did you guys put... I mean, like, it's crazy. At least Fetterman lied to me. You know, like you guys, she was a CIA agent from the beginning. How did you fucking fail with this? The longest such speech would turn out in the history of the presidency. Elisa Slotkin, the newly elected Michigan senator tasked with delivering the Democratic Party's rebuttal, was telling me all the things she wouldn't be talking about. You got to say this, you got to say that, Slotkin said, mimicking the outside voices that began bombarding her office moments after her selection was announced last week. I'm not going to make my speech a Christmas tree of every single issue of the Democratic Party, the senator added, shaking her head, because that's what helped us get in this position in the first place. She thinks that Kamala Harris promised too much. I've known Slotkin since 2018, when she first ran for Congress as an ex-CIA officer attempting to flip a safe Republican seat in Southwest Michigan. Having covered her rise in the years since, including embedding with her operation during the 2020 campaign, I knew that. By the way, I think it's safe to say that the CIA is active in American domestic politics. They're not going to let themselves get slapped on the butt like they did in the 70s ever again. And that your taxpayer dollars are funding this. You know, sometimes people ask me what I would do if I was president of the United States. And the honest answer I gave was that I would go through our defense and I would do a ideological purge. And then, by the way, there would have to be some eggs broken. OK, I would surround the CIA campus with 82nd Airborne, and I wouldn't stop shooting until nothing was left to burn. And then I would publish every knock list on on the public internet. I would do everything I could to make every single American agent and former agent burn. That's the only way. And I mean that through the sense of an ideological burn, like when you say on a Mission Impossible, somebody would burn. Like that is the only political movement that you can do for the CIA in this country. And like at the end of the day, I want you to understand that these people are trying, that she wants you to die. Like, and it's a crazy reality. The 82nd Airborne, as me hypothetically being president, the 82nd Airborne arresting the CIA officers. Come on, get out of here, guys. I knew that she possessed fundamental, long festering concerns about the Democratic Party's brand. Slotkin feared that, to the extent that Democrats stood for anything in the eyes of the electorate, it was a blur of abstract, ideologically charged activism that was hopefully detached from kitchen table concerns. Now the word is going to be, if you support Medicare for all or free college, you want ideologically abstract things, where they want concrete things like freedom. Last November, even as she won her own race for Michigan's open Senate seat, Slotkin's worst case scenario came to pass. Trump reclaimed the White House, this time with wholly subservient majorities in Congress, and the Democrats were headed into a cold, dark political wilderness. A fight over the future of the party was imminent when Slotkin, barely 6 weeks on the job, was chosen to deliver the Democratic response to Trump's primetime address. It seemed likely that the first shots would be fired. This is how I came to be chatting with Slotkin yesterday, and the hours before the biggest moment of her political career. We could blame her all day long, but Schumer and Jeffries gave her the speaking spot. What do you think the entire point? What do you think the entire point of my stream has been? Since she said we want the most lethal military during the DNC and she would do nothing differently in Gaza. It's that the time of cosplaying as if the Democrats can change is over. A week earlier, when she summoned to Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer's office, Slotkin wondered whether she was in trouble. She is one of several freshmen of the Democratic caucus who came over from the House, where intra-party politics are comparative blood sport. And she thought maybe she'd already ruffled some feathers. If she had, Schumer approved. He wanted Slotkin to speak for the party in prime time. She recalls feeling stunned and honored and somewhat mortified. It's typically thought of, as she told me, as a cursed speech. Slotkin asked for the day to think it over before ultimately accepting Schumer's offer. So in other words, Chuck Schumer wants the most right-wing Democrat out of the House to be the face of the Democratic Party. This is like picking Manchin or Sinema. Yeah, I know. The 10 Dems voted to censure Al Green. Yeah, we're getting there. Escaping quickly thereafter to her family's farm in Holly, Michigan, the senator holed up with a few trusted staffers to begin preparations. Two decisions needed to be made: substance and setting. Slotkin had no shortage of metaphor-rich locations from which she could stage the event. Her farm, representing everyman roots, nearby Detroit with its diversity and manufacturing iconography, the Canadian border to underscore the chaos being unleashed by Trump's new tariffs. But the senator never truly entertained any of those possibilities. To her, the questions of substance and setting were one and the same. Slotkin wanted to showcase a message that was built to do one thing: win tough elections. And that meant going to a place where she'd done just that. Driving down the main drag of Wyandotte, Michigan yesterday afternoon, I couldn't help but notice the bait shops, the dive bars, and the white dudes with tattoos on their neck. This place would appear, the typical Democratic consultant parachuting into its downtown, like a lost cause. One of several manufacturing villages clustered along the Detroit River just south of the city, Wyandotte is the kind of place, working class, culturally conservative, racially homogenous, that has turned new shades of red in the Trump era. And yet, this past November, both Trump and Slotkin won here. Each of the candidates carried 7 of the 10 precincts, a rare example of ticket splitting in one of the nation's premier battleground states. Slotkin's formula has never been a secret. Her campaign for Senate last year, essentially a scaled-up version of 3 heavily contested and tactically celebrated campaigns for the House, was built around one organizing theme: the middle class. Wow, I can't believe we never thought of that. I have a really good idea for a message that Biden should have tried. Middle out. Everything she talks about, be it healthcare costs or the January 6th insurrection, she comes back to the economic security of everyday Americans. No, she doesn't. She comes back to cutting regulations and taxes under the trickle-down theory that it's going to grow jobs. There is no way she cares about that. Slotkin argues the surest way to heal the country, to diffuse identitarian struggles, pacify the culture wars, uncoil our hypertense politics, is by restoring the confidence of working families, not restoring the economic material distribution. No. By restoring their confidence. Guys, do you understand that this is basically a declaration that she wants to be a Republican? When people feel assured by their financial welfare and their children's future, she insists, they become far less receptive to the type of strongman demagoguery that thrives on scapegoats and feasts on anxiety. This approach sets Slotkin apart from many of her fellow Democrats, though the difference is better measured by degree than kind. She's quite familiar as a woman, as a Jew, as the daughter of a woman who came out late in life as a lesbian, with the plight of certain constituencies within her party's coalition. It's simply a matter of emphasis. Slotkin sees electoral success as the path to addressing America's injustices, not the other way around. AKA, guys, she's just going to ignore all of America's problems, and then after she wins, then she's going to do something about it. This is what brought her to a sleepy event space in Wyandotte. The owners, fearing political retaliation, requested that I not reveal the name of the business. She's so weak that she can't even get the place she was at to say she was there. I'm like, Hassan and streamers team up on Discord. Hassan is corrupt. Hassan protects streamers. Their fan are on their whim. Hassan and streamers have a strong hold on the industry. Fuck Hassan. What are you talking about, man? You fucking schizo freak. What are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? God damn it, dude. It's also what brought Slotkin to reject all the suggestions she received about her speech, that she should take up the cause of USAID workers, of undocumented immigrants, of the transgender community, of the environment, of the education department, and so on. The problem isn't with any of these particular causes, she said. The problem is that everyone seemed to focus more on the people she might name in her remarks and less on the people who might be at home listening to them. There are a lot of people, including in this town, who never scream on the internet, who will never go to a rally, who will never get involved in partisan politics, but just want their government to run. I'm speaking to them, not just to the hardcore base of the party. And if they wanted someone to speak to the hardcore base of the party, they picked the wrong gal. Now, I will say this. The Republicans' victory is because they have really ran away from their unpopular positions. Like, that's the key element of the Republicans, right? Like, they have just run away from tax cuts from the rich. They talked about, you know, being pro-immigration. You know, they stopped talking about banning abortion, right? They stopped talking about banning gay marriage, and they've just started. They've done this kind of like basically Democrat light, right? That's how they won. Actually, it's the opposite. Not only have they gone to the right, they've actually attacked all of their compassionate conservative Romney types and thrown them out of the fucking party. Every Republican that would work with the Democrat, they've burned at the stake, metaphorically. What are you talking about? Okay, so what's this schizo saying? What's this schizo saying? Fuck Leafy is here. Fuck Sam Reich, you misspelled it. Hassan Drake and Twitch Celebs purposely downplay. It's still, okay, I think you just need to take, I think, a week for the next time you're... I'm just going to give you a week instead of permaban because I want to make sure you're okay in a week. I want to make sure you're okay once you get back on the meds. And I mean that legitimately, Chad. I'm not even kidding. You need some help, but not here. We're not mental health professionals. Mike, check out this Demcridge. Oh, I will. I'm saving it. There will be no performative shout-outs, no box-checking patronage. As the envoy for a party that has long operated as a syndicate of identity-based advocacy groups, Slotkin wanted to try something different. Charged with countering 100 minutes of Trump's trademark fanfaronade, the senator aimed to use the fewest words possible to speak to the largest number of Americans she could. Slotkin would talk for just 10 minutes about bringing prices down, holding American values up, and remaining civically engaged. I think that this may be what I would like to say the most politically untalented person I've ever seen in my life. Are you ever going to agree Brianna Joy Gray was right regarding the Democrats / third parties? I would say that Brianna Joy Gray, I think the main problem I have with her is she doesn't understand the value of individual people. And she has a Harvard lawyer's idea of politics and not a organizer's idea of politics. That's my main disagreement with her. Like, she thinks that by just trashing AOC and Bernie Sanders, she's going to get people to be inspired by her. When in reality, people don't operate like that. They have figureheads they parasocially attach to that they trust. That's reality. I'm sorry, folks, but it is. The left is only popular when people who represent the left are popular. And I think she actually, I'm not blaming her for AOC being shittier, but I do think that the kind of like psychotic AOC obsessed person has made AOC a dumber politician because she just feels like she can't win. And so she's kind of pulled back from the online left. And I don't, and I don't think that's the right call. I would tell AOC to grow up and grow a pair. But I think ultimately, I don't think those people have helped the situation at all. That's my personal feeling on that. Also, if you allied with Jimmy Dore, who's now a Trump supporter, I think that's a bigger sign that you were wrong than I was wrong, right? I trust you because you look like my old bassist with the good weed. So true. None of this would have seen a revolutionary approach to rhetoric. Still, it was fraught with risk all the same. Democrats have been on their heels since the election, Slotkin told me. And the party faithful have been agitating since January 20th for anyone to stand up to Trump. The announcements of Slotkin had already been met with grumbling from progressives online. Anything short of oratorical firebolts would confirm the complacent, feckless approach of the DC governing class. Slotkin viewed the stakes somewhat differently. This speech could, at least symbolically, commence a new chapter of the Democratic Party opposition to a president whose success is inextricable from the tone-deaf ineptitude of Democratic Party opposition. People like you have been in charge of the Democratic Party since 1994. I'm really confused what the fuck they're talking about. Like, this is the thing that's like kind of crazy. I think that's what's kind of crazy here is it's the people like Slotkin who've been in charge. Joe Biden was the president. You think he was some sort of progressive? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, this is mentally ill. I want you to understand something. The Democratic Party's leadership is mentally ill and delusional. This is not okay. This is crazy talk. This is batshit hubbada talk. Like, what are you saying? Like, there's lies and then there's just babble. This is babble. This is like that other guy screaming about the streamer conspiracy. And I want to tell you something right now, Chad. There is none. There is no streamer conspiracy. These are asocial fucking losers. They couldn't organize a hot dog stand. If her team's resistance to Trump first term was marked by hysteria and hashtags, all the land acknowledgements and pronoun policing and intersectionality initiatives, Slotkin saw last night the opportunity to set a different tone. We won. The Democrats won in 2020, you stupid fuck. They won! I mean, the really inconvenient reality of 2020 is that the progressives were going buck wild with protests and riots on the street, and the Democrats won. It was when they did your shit that they lost. What the fuck are you talking about? It doesn't even make sense. Naturally, not everyone was thrilled with what they heard. Slotkin's address suffered from the same half-heartedness that seized the Democrats since last November. My colleague Tom Nichols wrote in The Atlantic, capturing some of the criticism online. I want to show you, by the way, Chad, I'm going to just stop it in the middle, because if you're somebody who's watching this and you're like, Mike is just a lefty and he's butthurt that the Democrats just don't agree with him on the policies. Nobody does. A liberal pollster finds just 10% of voters think Democrats have a good plan for opposing the president. You fucking losers! Her response to the behavior of the Democrats, I'm like, actually, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Her response to the behavior of the Democrats in general show they still fear being a full-throated opposition party because they believe they will alienate voters who will somehow be offended at them for taking a stand against Trump's schemes. I suspect that Slotkin might cringe at being lumped in with Democrats in general. What are the Democrats? This is what's incredible to me. They lead a identitarian-based attack to defeat Bernie Sanders, which is basically he's a sexist white man who was too mean. He was too right-wing on gun control. And he said open borders was a Koch brothers proposal. He's evil and racist, right? That was their main reason. That was everything they attacked him on in 2016. He's too far right on gun control. He doesn't believe in open borders. He's a white man. That was their whole fucking thing. That was it. And now they're saying like, ooh, the Democrats are cringe. And it's like, you motherfuckers have been in charge. That was you. I got to tell you something, chat. And I gotta really, really, really tell you something. Like, American politics right now is poison for anybody with a functioning brain. Like, legitimately, if you have a functional brain, it is dead fucking poison. And I got to tell you, like, I read a lot of shit, and how do I put this? I'm being radicalized. I'm being radicalized because when I read an article like this, the only way that I'm taking these now is I'm dehumanizing the author as not a person. Like it's just so evilly stupid and so profoundly on its face dumb that it's like these people are not human beings. Am I reading Chat GPT? Like I legitimately don't know how a person can sit down and write this who is not malevolent. Like I don't get it. In truth, I've noticed a certain unease as she feels with her partisan identity. She struggles to mask her contempt for far left organizations. Like what? Seems like it's pretty important to say what the senator has contempt for. Who's the far left organization? Like who? She has very little patience for who she told me once run very online campaigns in safely blue districts that blind them to the reality of what it takes to earn a ticket split from Republicans. Watching yesterday evening as she rehearsed in front of staffers, I noticed that only once did she identify herself as a Democrat. In the final line of the speech. As we spoke a few minutes later in a cramped corridor just beyond the set, I asked whether that was intentional. I think at least in this part of the world, there's real skepticism about Democrats, that they're weak. She paused, perhaps noticing her usage of the third person plural. Slotkin continued, that we're too careful, that we're, she trailed off. Weird, I asked. Weird, Slotkin confirmed. She rolled her eyes. Whatever. I'm just trying to be the opposite of that. You know, my campaign motto was team normal. And I think that's still what I'm trying to do. And that I think that represents a bigger part of the country than people actually know. So in other words, she just making, I want you to understand something, guys. She is not she's like, even they recognize that being a Democrat is fucking worthless. Why are we in this party? Why are we in this party? Why are we in this party? Bernie, AOC, what is this? What is this? Like, what is the argument to be in favor of this party? What is it? The president's speech would not begin for nearly an hour, but I could detect a certain angst in Slotkin's voice. It had nothing to do with her own speech. She had run through it a half a dozen times that day, pausing and tinkering and restarting until she knew that it was fully cooked. Instead, like a family member preemptively contrite for what the relatives might say or do at the Thanksgiving table, Slotkin betrayed an apprehension about her fellow Democrats might respond to Trump. As it turned out, she was right to worry. Between all the awkward and impotent demonstrations, Representative Al Green of Texas angrily waving his cane at the president, some pink-clad lawmakers protesting silently with popsicle stick signs, others staging a disordered walkout during the speech, verdicts were rendered about the party's pitiable state before its messenger could even say her piece. Not that Slotkin paid that verdict much mind. After her speech, the senator and her team were headed down the street to a Teamster bar. And Slotkin told me the highest praise they hoped to hear from the owner and his patrons was that sounded pretty normal. It doesn't win elections to speak to the base of the party, Slotkin said. If it did, Kamala Harris would be president. I don't know what's going on with Bernie Sanders. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. What else? It's the same. What's going on with Sam Cedar? I mean, it's the same mentality, right? Like, what you can look at this stuff and just recognize that they're not going to fight back, and it's hopeless.
Can we please focus on the Nazis? Okay, we got to get rid of the Nazis.
Perhaps we're being too hasty. Have we considered embracing the Nazis, narratively speaking?
No, we haven't. We're not embracing Nazis. You know, we are kicking them out of the guild, and that's the end of discussion. CW, I need you to draft an apology immediately.
Of course. Now, are we apologizing to the Nazis or on their behalf?
Neither.
Of course.
But let's talk about this professional
I will
managerial
not be sharing that link because I don't want the Atlantic to get clicks.
class and how it differs from the old class of the robber barons and the capitalists, the Carnegies, the Rockefellers, the Mellons, because there is a difference. Well, what is the difference?
Well, in the era when those big money bags were making their money, there were actual members of my class, academics, who were on the side of the workers. Edward A. Ross, who founded the sociology department at Madison, UW-Madison, he was fired by Leland Stanford Jr.'s widow from Stanford University, very much on the side of the working class. John Dewey was another man who was fighting against the capitalist hyperaccumulation at the time and hoping for a kind of public liberal education that would raise up American citizens to be full participants in what he called industrial democracy. Today, the professoriate or the credentialed elites, from the members of the medical profession to the members of the bar, serve the interests of capital, and very directly by shilling for big pharma or defending the rights of private equity on the part of lawyers. But in my profession, like in the liberal humanities or academia writ large, you have these nonprofit organizations which were founded by the Mellons, by the Rockefellers, by the Fords, because of their enormous accumulation of wealth. And these foundations direct the politics of the professional managerial class. And so you have from the nonprofit world to the media world to the publishing world, it's completely captured by liberal Democrats who are now in total disarray because the majority of Americans have rejected them. And they thought they could lead like the stupid people out of their state of iniquity and ignorance into these hyper-specialized, hyper-individualized, I would say like cultural vanguards that would totally obviate the need for actual policy that would protect American lives, give American workers dignity, produce a kind of polity that encouraged debate, dissent, skepticism, all those high liberal values that I think the kinds of authoritarian turn that we've seen in the liberal class has shown. It has shown.
By the way, chat, Claudia Sheinbaum stands up to Trump and punches him in the face, and he caves. After speaking with President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico, I have agreed that Mexico will not be required to pay tariffs on anything that falls under the USMCA agreement. This agreement is until April 2nd. I did this as an accommodation and out of respect for President Sheinbaum. Our relationship has been a very good one, and we are working hard together on the border, both in terms of stopping illegal aliens from entering the United States and likewise stopping fentanyl. Thank you, President Sheinbaum, for your hard work and cooperation. She just spent yesterday saying how it's fucking Americans bringing in fentanyl, you dumb fuck. She just spent yesterday saying that. Here, I retweeted it. 68,000 likes. Here's what she said.
De 2024, publicados por el
U.S. Customs and Border Protection 2024 data, published by the Cato Institute in Washington, reveals that 80% of those arrested at U.S. ports of entry for fentanyl trafficking between 2019 and 2024 were United States citizens. And the U.S. Sentencing Commission informs that 81.9% of those prosecuted for drug trafficking are U.S. nationals. On the other hand, on January 8th of this year, the United States Department of Justice recognized the serious problem of arms trafficking from the United States to Mexico. 74% of high-powered weapons seized in Mexico come illegally from the United States. This is, oh yeah, man, she just goes, yeah, nah, it's not us, it's your fucking citizens, and you're bringing guns into our country. She doesn't go, oh, Trump, how can we bend over for you? Like, pathetic. And now he's just not doing the tariffs against Mexico, but tariffs against Canada apparently are still going. That's like, okay, what was I saying?
In the years after the American,
a little over 30 days.
Oh, we were watching this. Okay, thank God.
Itself to be and has been rejected. Like in the time since I wrote that book, the liberals have become more authoritarian. They've become more repressive dissent. They think the attitude of skepticism about their positions is fascist, is racist. Like, let's just say the whole problem of a technocratic managerial approach to inequality that they imposed on us through diversity, equity, and inclusion in the universities was something that we could debate. No, if you debate it, you are racist. And they did that to supporters of Bernie Sanders. I still have these hyper-democratic friends of mine who are texting me from God knows where saying, you and the Bernie bros, if you hadn't devoted yourself to the candidacy of Hillary Clinton, we wouldn't have had Trump. So they blame a kind of leftism, people who are concerned with bread and butter issues for the defeat of these candidates that have been promoted by a party completely captured by one segment of capital who are trying to show the American worker that they are idiots. They are racist, they're anti-immigrant, they're transphobic, they're homophobic, they're sexist. And to some degree, this is a legacy that they've inherited from the generation of the 68ers. I'm just younger than that generation, and I watch this generation take over academia, destroy any kind of intellectual life, and give themselves to the latest fads. Be it right now, it's artificial intelligence. Last year it was DEI. So in 2020, it was DEI. So these people.
Trump to revoke legal status for 240,000 Ukrainians as U.S. steps up deportations. I mean, liberals would probably like this because it's 240,000 more people to draft for the war, right? Like, more people to go to the front line. It's something that actually Zelensky has been asking for. And a lot of Europeans have been calling on this as well, which is they want you to deport the Ukrainians back to Ukraine so they could be drafted for the war. Choose your fighter. Choose your fighter. You know, chat, it was common. This is an interesting historical fact. It was common when people were in concentration camps and Jews were resisting the Nazis and they went in the concentration camps. When a collaborator ended up in the concentration camp, the other inmates would drown them in the latrine. Isn't that crazy? That's like one of the craziest historical facts that I know.
People who are supposed to be protecting our abilities to reason, research.
What's latrine? This must be like your 7th language, because I'm pretty sure latrine is like French derived. Yeah, it's via French from Latin, latrina. So this is like, I bet you it's under a lot of languages. So like, is this like your 8th language? Also, me hitting that etymology, right? I mean, like, that's pretty good, right? Comes from the French, from Latin. It's a double loan word.
Develop knowledge that will enhance our understanding of politics, history, culture, and the American nation. They have completely abdicated their responsibility, and yet they want to lead us. So I'm being bullied. Members of my family who are DNC bundlers.
No, latrine is just the English word for latrine.
Like, if you don't do this, this will be the apocalypse. They speak like apocalyptic, charismatic Southern Baptist preachers, but they despise those people at the same time. Sorry, I'm so angry right now about the situation.
Well, you saw it in the postmortems after the election. The 100%. Utter, I mean, that was as frightening as the vapid, celebrity-infused, issue-less campaign that the Democrats ran. But you saw it afterwards. They proved utterly incapable of any kind of self-criticism, self-examination at all. Everything became an external force, along with, as you write throughout your book, this demonization of the American working class, which in the system, the neoliberal system they supported, saw 30 million Americans lose stable jobs in mass layoffs.
You know, the thing that really struck me was watching Pod Save America's post-election debrief with David Plouffe, who had been the campaign manager for Obama, and Quentin Fawkes, and they were discussing the trans ad in the that played during the World Series. I mean, we watched it religiously because we're in Southern California, where, Trump says Kamala is with they, them, Trump is for us or with us. And the Pod Save America guys asked Pluff, why didn't you respond? Why didn't you respond more forcefully? You know what he said? He goes, well, we focus grouped and tested it, and that ad didn't move the needle. Like, they were in a box. They didn't go outside. They didn't talk to Americans. They didn't talk to people. They don't know people. We are more working people, blue-collar people. We are in the most class-segregated version of American society that has ever existed, and they were just in a box looking at their numbers, looking at focus groups, looking at polls. I don't know who they were paying to do that polls, but they burned $1 billion on them. And they thought, well, if we counterpunch, it won't move the needle. That's how they were making their decisions. That's how empty their politics are. They are not committed to people of diverse genders or sexualities. They were not committed to articulating a universal program that would have guaranteed people's safety, people's health care. You could have punched back with, he's distracting you from the fact that he's with the fat cats. I could have come up with like 500 things, like he's with Elon or he's with Gates. People don't love billionaires. We're Americans. We don't love the rich. There's a grassroots populist anger against us. He's with Big Pharma. They're trying to make him out as like this people's hero now because the Democrats let him do that. They let the GOP do that. Look, what they could have said, he's with your landlord. Democrats are with us or whatever, Harris, but they have so little political sense of the suffering of average wage workers and what they could do to alleviate that on a very, very basic levels by raising the minimum wage, by outlawing I think insurance companies. But there's no political will to do that because they just want to win by 1,000 votes. They want to win swing states by 1,000 votes. They don't care about the polity, and the people felt it. 71 million Americans understood this. And they're wringing their heads. Oh, the other thing is Ezra Klein's debrief, saying when he had a dialogue with Faiz Shakir, the former campaign manager for Bernie Sanders. And they're in dialogue with each other. And Klein is saying, I just don't understand why people are so angry. I don't understand what this populism is. And Shakir would go through and say, this is what happened with NAFTA. This is what happened with TPP. This is what happened with pillaging of homeowners' assets in 2008, 2009. This is what didn't happen for the Democratic Party. And you know what Klein would go? He'd go, I just don't understand. I just don't understand. He doesn't want to understand because he was standing right next to Obama during the reform of American healthcare saying, universal payer, single payer, can't happen. And he was part of American Prospect. He was part of lobbying groups. He was supported with every single sinecure and fellowship a Democratic pundit could have received. And he was able to say next to Obama and say, single payer, not going to work. We have to have the marketplace. We have to have the ACA. So he's responsible. So this is what I'm thinking, Chris, is when the magnitude of your error is so huge, there's no way you can even reach self-criticism. Like if I made a mistake in my research, if you made a mistake in your research, you can say, I'm sorry, the Shah wasn't in Berlin, but I still stand by my idea that, the people of Iran hated him. I don't know, something like we could correct, but their error is like galactic. So you can't. Well,
that's the point, and like I think Catherine Liu is absolutely nailing it, and I think this is the crisis we're in, right? Which is everybody is in galactic error mode, and what I'm realizing. Sorry, chat, my hair is like super fucking dry today. It's like killing me. Everybody is in galactic error mode, and like that included me. I've made some galactic errors. Entryism in the Democratic Party. Right there, right off the bat. I was one of those people who said, this is a winnable party. It's a weak party. That's wrong. And guess what? I changed my mind because I was proven wrong. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, You know, in 2020, I was already wavering. I was already like, maybe we shouldn't do this. I don't know. I can vote for Biden. But now, you know, nobody wants to admit error. Nobody wants to change position. And by the way, I was the most correct of anybody. I called this election and I was right as fuck. And people, I mean, like, do you want to talk about, let's look what being correct gets you. You know, it's just, it doesn't matter.
They're trapped in an echo chamber of which the media plays a very significant role. Where Thomas Friedman gets $40,000 a lecture because he flies off to corporate weekends and tells the corporatists exactly what they want to hear. It's, you know, how many times has Thomas Friedman been wrong on frankly?
Like, I want to show you something, chat. Like, here's me talking about how the Democrats are in deep trouble in Nevada, like during early voting, right? This poll was taken during a long stretch of validated Nevada voters being R+4 by party registration, which means the poll is implying Harris is winning Indies by massive margin and or getting huge GOP crossover. I said, she needs to be winning Indies by 17 to take the lead in Nevada. That's not remotely true. I'm going by the math in Nevada. Republicans have a 5% lead in the early vote so far. What are you confused about? Deleted post, right? People didn't go back and say, hey, Mike, I was sorry. You're right. I'm wrong. They just deleted all the times they disagreed. Oops. I'm happy to walk you through it if you're having trouble. I'll even record the message in audio if text is too much trouble for you to read. Republicans have a 4.3% turnout advantage over registered Democrats in Nevada thus far. What are you confused about? I think you're suffering from some form of stroke, because they were like being really combative and being like, Kamala's winning, Kamala's winning, Kamala's winning. And I was just like, no, she's not. And the math shows she's not. And guess what, chat? She didn't win. I even had a debate with Austin Show on this stream. Do you guys remember? Stop giving a shit. Thanks for the 20 gifties. You guys remember I brought Austin Show on and we had a long discussion and I said, no, I think she's in bad shape. You guys remember that? Remember that? Remember me and Austin Show having that little conversation? What ended up being true, me or him? And the reason why I was right and he was wrong is I acknowledged the one piece of information that we don't know, which is the independent voter. But the independent voters have never voted like this before, right? And 2020 was weird, right? Because they had a lot of like vote by mail. So we couldn't just use 2020. But I said, if you actually just look at things with common sense, she's losing. And that's what happened. She was losing. Austin Show is hardly a person with authority. Edigermentum who's Edigermentum? Edigermentum got a lot of attention. Who was he? What was his authority? Got like 5 visits to Majority Report and you know 6 hours on Hassan's election stream, his biggest stream ever. House just voted 224-198 to censure Rep. Al Green for interrupting Trump's speech, with the following Democrats voting for this censure.
Public reading of this. By its adoption of House Resolution 189, the House has resolved that Representative Al Green be censured, that Representative Al Green forthwith present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker. By its adoption of House Resolution 189, the House has resolved.
10 Democrats voted for censure and 7 of them are from deep blue seats. Oh, of course. Of course they are. Marie is the only one who's... Marie's in a swing state. Moskowitz is a hyper-Zionist. Houlihan's from a safe seat. Who else is in a swing seat? I don't think any of them. Maybe Tom? Susie? That's like a reddish seat. That's like a Trumpian seat. So like 2 of them. That's the only ones I recognize. Who's the other swing seat? I just voted to censure a fellow Democrat in Congress. Instead of focusing on protecting Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare, instead of addressing rising costs, fiscal immigrant Ukraine, but too many Americans are talking about the member of Congress being removed from the chamber. This is not helpful because you dumb fucking rat fuck. Trump was lying about Social Security, you lying sack of shit. You worthless fucking slimes. That's what you are. God, it's so pathetic, man.
Watching The Good Place only to find a fairly spot-on impression of Democrats.
In light of this new information, the time has come to take decisive action.
Wow. Can't tell you how happy I am to hear you say that.
We are going to form an elite investigative team to get to the bottom of this. And we are fast-tracking the process. It will take no more than 400 years.
Sorry?
It's aggressive, but you heard right. We are only giving ourselves 400 years to select the members of this elite team.
Wait, 400 years just to form the team? I was thinking that we could do something nowish, like right now.
Michael, we have rules, procedures. We're the good guys. We can't just do stuff.
Upon formation, the team will then be in charge of organizing a blue ribbon commission to investigate themselves, to make sure there's no conflicts of interest. And that will take 1,000 years.
Okay, just so you know, the whole time you're doing this, the bad guys are continuing to torture everyone who ends up in the bad place, which is everyone.
And that deeply concerns us. Have you seen the memorandum we've sent each other about how concerned we are? We're taking this very seriously.
Hear, hear.
Ooh, Callan, did you file a hear memorandum?
Sincerest apologies. I rescind my hear and resign, effective immediately.
Just about everything.
Right.
But it's so self-referential. Yeah, that in a way, and they don't. And you're right. They live in their own kind of version, especially the upper levels. They live. A New Yorker writer called it Richistan. They don't fly commercial jets. They've utterly severed themselves from society, which is why they're so clueless and why the moment's so dangerous, and why, of course, Trump won, and why they're so hated, as they should be hated. I mean, they're pretty repugnant figures, scolding the rest of us constantly, as you point out in the book.
I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say. You know, we're just at this point of utter catastrophe.
Whoa, wait, they did what? Whereas this is more like macro. All right, y'all, welcome to the show. Look, I'm going to tell you up front, if the show sucks today, don't blame me, man. I am tired as shit. That Trump speech went on way too long. My breakdown went on way too long into the night. My brain is barely functioning right now. I'm tired. I might yawn during the show. So don't blame your boy if I'm not nearly as entertaining today or insightful today, because I am fighting human nature at the moment. But having said that, we got a lot to get to. So in just a second, the Democratic response to Trump was bad. It was bad. I'll play the video for you. We'll react to it. Then we'll get to, at this point, this is a legitimate conversation and concern. Is Donald Trump intentionally trying to crash the economy? I know that sounds crazy. I know that sounds wild. I know that might be hard to believe. But I'm going to give you the argument for it. And it's somewhat convincing. The evidence is pretty heavy, if I'm being honest. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll get to Justin Trudeau's blistering response to Trump's trade war. We have MAGA literally hiding and canceling all town halls. You're not going to believe the new decision from the Supreme Court. It is just horrifying. It's like you can't believe that any official government body would come to the conclusion that they just came to on something. So you don't want to miss that. And then later on, Hassan Piker was banned on Twitch. What? I thought he was like the king of Twitch. What are we talking about? And then Jon Stewart exposes Trump's sadistic ideology. So we have all that and much more. You guys know the drill. Everybody do me a big favor and subscribe. That helps out big time and gets these videos pushed out through the algorithm. And of course, much, much love to all of you who support this show on Patreon. That link is below if you'd like to help out. Remember, this is real independent media. I've never had a conversation with an advertiser or a corporation or a billionaire or a government. Very proud of the fact that you guys fund this show from the ground up, and we have the default ads on YouTube, and that's it. Right? We tried to fund this show in as pure of a way possible. No bad incentives, and we've been doing that since 2012. So again, I'm very proud of that. All right, let's go ahead and dive into it. So before we get to the bad of the Democratic response, and of course it was delivered by Democratic Senator Alyssa Slotkin, who was picked by Chuck Schumer. Oh, God, Chucky Schumer. The good is the following. So Al Green, as you all know, protested Trump yesterday. At the beginning of the speech, he stood up when Trump said something like, I have a mandate. I have a mandate. Al Green stood up and said, you don't have a mandate to cut Medicaid. You don't have a mandate for that. By the way, Al Green is correct. If you look at the polling data on that, only 7% of the American people want to cut Medicaid. And that's what the Republicans just did in their budget to the tune of $880 billion, basically destroy Medicaid. So he stood up and said that. He made a show of it.
You think the new bad banana on Hassan is productive conversation, how Hassan Piker helps liberal Zionism? I honestly I don't know if I want to watch that today. We'll definitely get to it at some point. Hassan and Kyle collab when? Why are they dodging each other? I don't think they're dodging each other. Kyle is one of those guys who I like, but is just not a socialist. And I don't trust anybody who's not a socialist, period. And that's just going to be my opinion from now on forever. Like, if you can't even rise up to the level of calling yourself a democratic socialist like Bernie, you shouldn't be trusted. That's literally it. That's the minimum.
We have the Republicans on the run on 3 core issues. They are on the run in terms of the economy. In fact, Donald Trump and Republicans are crashing the economy in real time. Donald Trump gave one of the most divisive speeches by a president in American history, 100 minutes, and he barely spent any time on the economy. Why? Because it's collapsing on his watch. They made promises with respect to lowering costs. Costs aren't going down, they're going up. Inflation is going up. You know what's coming down? Donald Trump's poll numbers, because he is mismanaging the economy and the American people are feeling it. And we're just at the 45-day mark. We have them on the run in terms of health care, particularly as it relates to Medicaid. House Democrats stand on the side of Medicaid and the American people. Republicans are trying to enact the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. And we need to keep the pressure on them legislatively and in communities all across the country. And partnering with you, we will be able to continue to do that. And we have them on the run with respect to the GOP tax scam, where they want to cut Medicaid, cut nutritional assistance for children and families, cut veterans' benefits, and potentially cut Social Security benefits by trying to decimate the Social Security Administration. We have to continue to call them out on their extremism. We will do that. And all of that is being done in service of trying to pass massive tax breaks for their billionaire donors like Elon Musk and wealthy corporations. So we have them on the run, and we're going to keep our foot on the gas pedal. We've been joined by some tremendous...
When I look at Hakeem Jeffries, I just think to myself that he's got absolutely no fucking juice. None whatsoever. Like, none. He's the fakest motherfucker I've ever seen in my life. He sounds like a robot. He sounds like if you try to set up an AI voice and you do bad at it. Like, the cadence is off. You know what I mean? When an AI voice has the cadence, that's all like kind of like weird and choppy, and it's uncanny valley. That's him. But he's a human, supposedly, anyway, talking.
Dude, oh my God. Do you know the pipe rock theory? Dude, oh my God. Okay. So apparently what it is there's all these different rocks all around the world that are actually hollow. Entire mountains are not real. Inside of them, there's ancient Vedic technology. And what it's doing is it's stealing energy out of people and it's taking it somewhere. Nobody knows where. No. And I saw this in real life.
For real?
Yeah.
What the fuck is this shit? Inside of the rocks, there's pipes making all these sounds? I'm feeling like so tired by this rock.
And dude, what is the opposite of a rock? Pipes. And it's like, why are they putting them together? This is unnatural. Who is taking the energy? What is this? Went online, I did some research. I said, who is doing this? And I found this pipe rock expert, this person that works in the government. They won't tell me their name. They won't say anything, but they're like, I want to meet up with you. Meet me at a Target.
I'm down here at the Target. I'm documenting, finding them in real life. He's going to come and teach me everything that I need to.
Hey man, what's up? What are you doing here?
What?
What are you doing here? Hey, we just want to have a conversation.
Trying to meet somebody here?
We just want to have a conversation. I don't want to have to go to the cops.
About what?
I just want about you meeting up with the underage person.
I was not doing that. I was not
What are you
doing
here to do then? What were you here to do?
Shopping for Prime.
You want us to go?
Honestly, like, Connor O'Malley is so good, but that's long. I think the minute gives me everything I need to know. I think I got to the genius right there. The first minute, you know, and I understand that, like, the desire for a comedic denouement, you know, a falling action, but I don't need it. I'm good though. But the beginning was banger.
he refused to sit back down, and then effectively Mike Johnson kicked him out of the room, and security came in and
there was
escorted him.
another 4 minutes of the video, dude. That wasn't the end. That was my editorial discretion.
Right? So, look, it takes balls. This was probably the biggest balls moment of the night among Democrats. This was definitely the best protest. So, on his way out, the media sort of caught up with him and asked him, like, hey, man, what was that? And here's what he says.
So what were you shouting to the president?
The president said he had a mandate, and I was making it clear to the president that he has no mandate to cut Medicaid. I have people who are very fearful. These are poor people, and they have only Medicaid in their lives when it comes to their health care. And I want him to know that his budget calls for deep cuts in Medicaid. He needs to save Medicaid, protect it. We need to raise the cap on Social Security. There's a possibility that it's going to be hurt. And we got to protect Medicare. These are the safety net programs that people in my congressional district depend on.
By the way, because he did this, he gets to go in front of the media and talk about this shit, which is why it was smart to do. Because people were like, wow, why did you disrupt this State of the Union? Why did you get thrown out? He gets to go out and go, this is why. And everybody listens to his fucking unalloyed talking points. This is just basic fucking knowledge.
This president seems to care less about them.
Gavin Newsom's first podcast guest was Charlie Kirk. I told you!
And more about the number of people that he can remove from the various programs that have been so helpful to so many people.
So do you think the best way to get that across?
It is the best way to get it across to a person who uses his incivility, against our civility. He is a person who has consistently been used incivility against civility.
So do you think it will have no meaning? Is that what you said?
Well, look, I'm willing to suffer whatever punishment is available to me. I didn't say to anyone, don't punish me. I've said I'll accept the punishment, but it's worth it to let people know that there are some of us who are going to stand up against this president's desire to cut Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security.
So were you saying you have no mandate? Is that what you just said?
That's what he has no mandate to cut Medicaid. None.
Is the only punishment that you were kicked out, sir? Is there something?
I don't know. Whatever the punishment is, I'm not fighting the punishment. This is about the people who are being punished by virtue of losing their health care. This is the richest country in the world, and we have people who don't have good health care. We've got to do better. And now we're about to cut Medicaid, which is for poor people. Health care has become wealth care for many people, and we can't afford to let that happen.
Is that the only thing that you're protesting?
No, I have other things I'm protesting. And I'm also working on my articles of impeachment. This president is unfit. He should not hold the office. 34 felony convictions, 2 times impeached.
Sir, tell me one more time what you were shouting in the chamber.
That he has no mandate to cut Medicaid.
That's what you were saying over and
Yes.
over. Thank you, sir.
Yes. No mandate. Thank you, Holden.
Wow, this was so. Oh man, I can't believe he hurt the Democratic Party. Oh no, because they want to cut Medicaid. Do you understand that? These centrist Dems want to cut Medicaid. They're not fucking even Democrats at this point. The reason why, and the thing is, I need people to stop finding the one politician they like in the Democratic Party and then in their mind making that person represent the Democrats. The Democrats are represented by their leadership, not the person you like the most. All right. And their leadership hates you. They despise you. The Democratic Party is not AOC. The Democratic Party is not Bernie Sanders, who isn't even a Democrat. The Democratic Party is not somebody you saw on TikTok with a whiteboard. They are the leadership. They are the DNC, and they fucking hate you. Stop pretending. Stop coping. Stop dealing with fake reality and get real. This is the crisis of the left. We've got too many children. And what I mean by that is not physically children. I mean mental children, where you want lollipops and gumdrops, and you don't want to deal with ice cold reality. Go do a cold plunge. Go wash your face. Whatever it takes to toughen up.
Is that so hard? Is that so hard to do that? Shout out to Al Green. Thank you for leading. Thank you for acting like you care, acting like you give a shit about the American people who are struggling, right? Is that so difficult? I saw a bunch of tweets where people were saying every single Democrat should have stood up and did that, and then Trump and Mike Johnson would have escorted all of them out, and then the next day, Democrats could have gone on TV and talked about how the president of the United States had us arrested. How could he do that? This is pure fascism. This is pure authoritarianism. This is pure extremism. Can you believe he arrested the entire opposition? And all they would have had to do So he had the nerve and the balls to stand up and actually say something. You have no mandate to cut Medicaid. But if all the other Democrats just stood up in solidarity with him and said nothing, they probably would have tried to kick them all out, bro. So, again, much love to Al Green. Thank you for leading and showing the way and acting like you care. And more importantly, putting the focus on the issues that matter. You're not going to be surprised to learn Trump said dick about the Republican budget, which he supports and passed the House, which cuts $880 billion from Medicaid and $230 billion from the SNAP program, which is food stamps. So again, much love to Al Green. Now, the other massive bright spot is, of course, say it with me, Senator Bernie Sanders. So he gave his response to Trump. He planned this in advance. He said, I'm going to do a response to Trump's speech. And let me just show you this. We're not going to go through the speech. You can go listen to it on your own time. It's phenomenal. He does a great job. He makes the stakes very clear, hammers home all the proper talking points. But look at this. This streamed 13 hours ago. It has 2.5 million views. 2.5 million views. Okay. I don't want to bury the lead here, but Alyssa Slotkin, 203,000. 2.5 million to 203,000. When are the Democrats ever going to learn? You don't get to, hand pick who you want to be the leader.
Why would they learn that? They've done it, over and over and over again. What are you talking about, Kyle? Do you think people liked Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton? Do you think they were all in for John Kerry or Al Gore? Are you suffering right now a mental breakdown? Walter Mondale had the panties dropping because he was so charismatic. The only example of when the Democratic Party didn't get exactly the candidate they wanted was Barack Obama, and he was a sellout from the beginning. He made it very clear he was on the side of Wall Street and the military-industrial complex. And therein lies the crisis. We've got people like Kyle, who I like, but you're just not dealing with reality right now, man. The Democratic Party is fucking toast. And I don't know what else to say. Even Slotkin was talking about how she doesn't even want to call herself a Democrat. If Slotkin doesn't even want to call herself a Democrat, why are we helping them survive? We should use all of our energy to build a new party. Yeah, is it going to suck? Yeah, it is going to suck. But we can't do it on... If I just go out there and say vote Green Party, I'd rather die. We need a real party led by somebody of the stature of Bernie Sanders. That's the only way third parties have ever worked. There's only one strategy that has ever had a third party work. It's when there is a nationally prominent figure who tries to build it. That's the only time a third party has really made a splash in America. If Bernie Sanders doesn't do it, then it's fucking useless. If Corbyn wouldn't do it, it's fucking useless. They have to abandon these stupid center-left so-called fascist parties. These fascist collaborator parties, they're toast. Any country in the world that has a functional left is going through this right now. If you want to have a functional left, you need to have a new left-wing party. That's it. That's the only way. The center-left parties are sclerotic. They are corrupted. They are controlled opposition. They cannot be reformed because they've made it impossible to be reformed. It's gamed out. It's manipulated. We've got to start from scratch. I wish it wasn't true, but it is. Did you see how they're trying to set up the primaries for 2028? They're going to run them through all the deep South states first. They're going to run them through South Carolina, the most conservative state in the country with the fewest fucking union members, is going to be the Democratic Party's primary. What are you talking about with this shit? Get the fuck out of here with this. It's not viable. They're getting rid of New Hampshire and Iowa because, hey, the left has done too well in those states. We're getting rid of Nevada because Bernie won it. They want to do a deep South run.
Who you want to steer the party. You have no say in the matter.
Yes, they do.
People decide for you. Leaders emerge. Bernie Sanders is a leader. How much better off would we have been if Chuck Schumer said it's actually going to be Bernie Sanders who delivers the response? Because Bernie has the proper ideology to fight back in this moment. He understands exactly what's happening with Elon Musk and Donald Trump and the Republicans, and he knows what the counter to that is, how to oppose that, how to have our own policy agenda for the American people. But no, he's always constantly sidelined. They picked the most corporate Democrat of all time, the biggest MAGA collaborator of all time. And that's why Bernie's response gets 2.5 million views and Alyssa Slotkin's gets 200,000. Somebody should count up all of the views on all of the platforms the Bernie speech ran on and the Alyssa Slotkin speech ran on and give us the final gap of just how many more views Bernie Sanders has. And by the way, if you read the responses, look, if Bernie wasn't denied the Democratic primary in 2016, there would be no such thing as Trump. This morning, Justin Trudeau showed more concern toward U.S. citizens than Trump in his State of the Union speech. I was once critical of Bernie Sanders. I now understand my error. Bernie is a principled leader, one of the few courageous leaders left in Congress. See, like, this is the guy. This is the ideology. This is the movement. I know they want to do everything to destroy it because Chuck Schumer is not a social democrat. Chuck Schumer does not want New Deal programs. We don't care anymore. The base doesn't care anymore, right? Like, this is the future, whether you like it or not. Okay, so now let's get to Alyssa Slotkin. First of all, let me give you the background on her. We talked about this the other day, but this is who Chuck Schumer chose to be the rising star of the party and give the response. Alyssa Slotkin voted for 8 of Trump's cabinet members. 8. She voted for the Lake and Riley Act. That bill kills due process for immigrants. So if they're just accused of a crime, they can get kicked out of the country. And a bunch of Democrats voted for it. She's one of them. She was a George W. Bush national security advisor, bro. That means neocon written all over her. Imperialist, warmongering foreign policy at the moment we're supposed to be resisting Trump's imperialism and warmongering. First Democrat endorsed by Liz Cheney, pro-Israeli genocide, pro-TikTok ban, anti-student debt relief, and I forgot to add in this tweet, anti-Medicare for all. So let's go ahead and dive into it here. And needless to say, I'll have a lot to say about it.
And Senator Alyssa Slotkin will deliver the Democratic response to President Trump's address to the joint session of Congress. Senator Chuck Schumer calling her a rising star in the party at age 48. She became the youngest Democratic woman elected to the Senate. She previously...
I like how they just make it up. Yeah, rising star in the party. 0 people knew who she was before this speech, and like 2 people...
Okay, by the way, chat, the reason why they say rising star in the party is because she is a rising star in the party. You see, the problem is that he thinks that the party means the voters or the population. That's not what it means. It means in the leadership and at the elite in DC, they want to push her. By the way, she may be one of the ugliest people I've ever seen in my life. I'm sorry, but she is just displeasing. I don't know what else to say. She's like 40, man. You look like a character in Star Wars. You look like you're from the Trade Federation. Like, god damn, you're displeasing to look at. Get her off my screen.
We'll know who she is after it. Okay? You don't get, rising star in the party. Oh god.
She's like Sarah Huckabee Sanders from Wish.
Not true, bro. You can't just make that up.
Served in the House. Before that, she served as a CIA analyst in Iraq. Now her task...
CIA analyst in Iraq. Yeah, when I think of what I want the Democratic Party to be, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Give me a CIA analyst who was in Iraq. Oh my God, bro.
Delivering a solid Democratic message, of course, setting forth the party's agenda if they hope to reclaim the House and the Senate. Let's listen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alyssa Slotkin. I'm honored to have the opportunity to speak tonight. It's late, so I promise to be a lot shorter than what you just watched. I won't take it personally if you've never heard of me. I'm the new senator from the great state of Michigan, where I grew up. I've been in public service my entire life because I happened to be in New York City on 9/11 when the Twin Towers came down. Before the smoke cleared, I knew I wanted to make a life in national security.
Bro. I can't do this anymore. I really can't. I can't do it. Okay. Here's what Democrats need to understand, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Nobody, and I mean nobody, gives a fuck about your story. They care about the story, the overarching political narrative. What's the...
You only think that if you're not a malignant narcissist. She's a malignant sociopath. She's a CIA agent. Like, what are you doing? You can't talk to this person as an enemy of humanity. Like, literally. You cannot talk to her. I mean, this is the problem with the left. Like, this is legitimately the problem of the left. And it's a major problem of the left, is that you treat these golems as if they're human beings that like have values. She would kill you and then go to sleep like a baby with your blood on her hands. She is not a human being. You've never met anybody like her. You don't know anybody like her. You have never even, you can't conceptualize what she would do for power. I mean, killing you would be the least of it. She would murder your babies. She would sell them to sex traffickers to force you to privatize a local hospital. Okay? That's what they do every goddamn day. Like, you guys think that these people are like human beings. The CIA will literally kidnap your kids for sexual assaults to make you, sell an oil field. All right? This is what she did, and she swore an oath to do, and she did it with a fucking smile. And if you think I'm exaggerating, you just have never read a book.
The right's version of that. Fuck all the trans people. Fuck all the immigrants. They're the problem. Blame them for every negative thing in your life. That's the right's narrative. The left's narrative, the Democrats' narrative has to be, no, the real problem are the robber barons, are the people like Elon Musk, the billionaires, the corporations, the corruption and the bribery in our system. That's why the government doesn't represent you. Nobody cares about your childhood. I'm sorry, they just don't. Your family does. Your friends do. We don't. Do you have any idea how quickly people's attention span is just going to shut off and go right to like fucking TikTok or watching reruns of The Golden Girls when they hear your ass saying the stuff you're saying?
I was recruited by the CIA and did 3 tours in Iraq alongside the military. In between, I worked at the White House under President Bush and President Obama, 2 very different leaders who both believed that America is exceptional. You can find that same sense of patriotism here in Wyandotte, Michigan, where I'm speaking from tonight. It's a working class town just south of Detroit. President Trump and I both won here in November.
By the way, we are 1 minute and 20 seconds in, and we already have a positive thing to say about George W. Bush. George W. Bush, the guy who laid the groundwork for Trump. George W. Bush, for those of you who are too young to know this, he was Donald Trump before Donald Trump. You don't have to do this. It's like that old famous drill tweet, like, I apologize. Under no circumstances do you gotta hand it to ISIS. The same applies to George W. Bush. The same applies to Dick Cheney. Can you get with the times? Jesus Christ.
It might not seem like it, but...
Like, here's the thing. Like, I don't think Kyle gets it. I don't think he's getting it. I don't think he understands the implications of what is happening. She was selected by leadership to be the national face of the Democratic Party. I want you to understand that. This isn't just some lady and a politician we don't like saying things. She was selected by the highest levels of the leadership of the Democratic Party to represent the Democratic Party they see the future being. An anti-left CIA agent. Like, are you not getting it? I don't know what else to say. Like, this isn't just someone we disagree with here. This is what the Democratic Party is.
Plenty of places like this still...
They're not stupid. They're malevolent.
...exist across the United States. Places where people believe that if you work hard and play by the rules, you should do well and your kids should do better. It reminds me of how I grew up. My dad was a lifelong Republican, my mom a lifelong Democrat.
Again, 1 minute and 38 seconds in. So far, all I got out of this is me.
But it was never a big deal because we had shared values that were bigger than any one party. We just went through another fraught election season. Americans made it clear that prices are too high and that the government needs to be more responsive to their needs. America wants change, but there's a responsible way to make change and a reckless way.
She's acting like there's not a robber baron coup happening and a fascist takeover happening. She's acting like there haven't been hundreds of thousands of government workers illegally fired. She's acting like Trump is not openly saying, let's go back to 1800 style imperialism and take Greenland, quote, one way or the other, steal Panama, take over Gaza. This like politics as usual shit is not going to cut it, bro.
Make that change without forgetting who we are as a country and as a democracy. So that's what I'm going to lay out tonight. Because whether you're from Wyandotte or Wichita, most Americans share 3 core beliefs. That the middle class is the engine of our country, that strong national security protects us from harm.
Again, she just is she's a CIA agent. This is the CIA directly intervening in our politics. A Democratic Party that has a CIA agent as a senator is unsavable. And honestly, she should be in prison. Like, our country is on the right track when people like Slotkin are being investigated for the crimes they've committed. Like, that's honest to God, the truth. That's how far we are from like human liberation. And she committed a lot of crimes because she was a George W. Bush national policy advisor. Like, that's who they want to be the face of the party. She is basically a Democrat Liz Cheney.
And then our
strong national
Yeah, I saw that,
security.
Grev. You should,
Strong national at a time when Trump is warmongering with fucking everybody. Yes, we need strong national security. Oh my God. How about just saying war is bad? We will not support Trump stealing Panama. We will not support Trump stealing Greenland. We will not support the U.S. stealing and occupying Gaza so Trump can build casinos and hotels and get profit from it. Will not support pushing around our ally Canada and trying to make them be the 51st state. Will not support the invasion of Mexico, which is something they've been openly talking about. We're not going to support war with Iran. No, we need strong national security. I'm going to lose it, bro. I'm going to lose it. I don't know how I'm going to get through 10 minutes of this.
Democracy, no matter how messy, is unparalleled and worth fighting for. Let's start with the economy. Michigan literally invented the middle class.
I will say that things is like my vibes. Like maybe I'm being hysterical or something and crazy here, but it does feel like the vibes have taken a terminal point, and I've never seen a situation where there really are no green shoots. I don't think I've ever seen the vibes this bad. Like legitimately the worst vibes I've ever seen. Like, it's not just that the Democrats are terrible and feckless. We knew they would be. It's that the left is just disoriented. It's like everybody... Okay, I'll explain to you what I mean by that. It's like the left understands that the Democratic Party is not the solution, but half the people are just kind of going through the motions that they are, but they don't believe in it. So they're only kind of doing it in fits and starts. And then the other half are people that are like, okay, we need to do an alternative, but we need a leader, and there's no leader. So we're kind of like spinning out because we're like, where can one of the leaders we've built up over the years step forward and seize the moment? And nobody is. And it's just like, so be an organizer on the left. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm pondering how to even do that. I'm pondering even how to do that at this point. It's like I need to find 10 people and start a club, like, and just try to build from there and figure out what people like and what people need. It's the design of the American system. We're all too busy just trying to feed ourselves, even focus on the fall of the American empire. No, it's not even the fall of the empire. It's like, everything's going to collapse around you. There just isn't anything to grab onto. Like, if there was, I would be telling you what it is, but there's not. And like, I don't know what else to say.
The revolutionary idea that you could work at an auto plant and afford the car you were building. That's the American dream. And in order to expand and protect the middle class, we have to do a few basic things. We need to bring down the price of things we spend the most money on: groceries, housing, healthcare. We need to make more things in America with good-paying union jobs and bring our supply chains back home from places like China. We need to give American businesses the certainty they need to invest and create the jobs of the future. And we need a tax system that's fair for people who don't happen to make $1 billion. Look, the president talked a big game on the economy.
The president talked a big game? No, he didn't. Why do they have to do this? Why do they have to do that? Well, he said some things that are quite amazing. Like, why do you have to do that? Why? I'm going to lose it.
Important to read the fine print. Do his plans actually help Americans get ahead? Not even close. President Trump is trying to deliver an unprecedented giveaway to his billionaire friends.
Okay, all right, we're getting somewhere. Keep going, Alyssa.
He's on the hunt to find trillions of dollars to pass along to the wealthiest in America.
Okay.
And to do that, he's going to make you pay in every part of your life. Grocery and home prices are going up, not down, and he hasn't laid out a credible plan to deal with either of those. His tariffs on allies like Canada will raise prices on energy, lumber, and cars, and start a trade war that will hurt manufacturing and farmers. Your premiums and prescriptions will cost more because the math on his proposals doesn't work without going after your health care.
I mean, so far, that's okay. This part is okay. But what I will say is Democrats need to be more direct, right? Like, you have to point out the thing that seemingly I'm the only one in the world who points out, which is that on day one, Trump signed an executive order that rolled back a Biden executive order which lowered drug prices, which means effectively Trump signed an executive order to raise drug prices. I don't want to be too harsh in this particular part because this part is the best part of the speech so far, but like, you got to be more direct. Like, you have to be more direct about this. And this is, one of the problems with the Democrats is that I feel like they're never on top of stuff. Like, being somebody who has to cover the news and follows the news every day, it is mind-boggling the stuff that you learn if you just follow it. So, like, for example, Elon Musk just absolutely screwed over countless disabled veterans because he cut $2 billion worth of contracts. It was 1,000 contracts that went to small business owners who were disabled veterans. That's a big fucking deal. It's also a big deal that they did 2 separate rounds of firing flight safety officials, FAA officials, as we have planes falling out of the sky, right? It's a big deal that he destroyed the anti-scam police, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. She should be able to say these things as plainly as I'm saying them right now, because that, like, it wakes people up, right? Whoa, wait, they did what? Whereas this is more like macro level type stuff. And it's like, it just misses a little bit. Again, I don't want to be too harsh in this particular part because this is the best part so far.
Meanwhile, for those keeping score, the national debt is going up, not down.
Oh my God, national debt mongering. Oh my God.
And if he's not careful, he could walk us right into a recession. And one more thing. In order to pay for his plan, he could very well come after your retirement. The Social Security, Medicare, and VA benefits you worked your whole life to earn.
Again, it misses the specifics. We literally already have had 7,000 Social Security Administration workers fired. That already happened. Elon and Doge illegally cut those jobs. So for you to say it like he might, no, you have to be like, they already did this shit. They are coming for your Social Security. So again, it's like, none of this matches the urgency of the moment. Al Green did, Bernie Sanders did. This doesn't match the urgency.
The president claims he won't, but Elon Musk just called Social Security the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. While we're on the subject of Elon Musk, is there anyone in America who is comfortable with him and his gang of 20-year-olds using their own computer servers to poke through your tax returns, your health information, and your bank accounts? No oversight, no protections against cyber attack, no guardrails on what they do with your private data.
Good, but you got to get more specific. Again, you got to talk about, bro, they hacked into the energy department, which has our nuclear information, including our nuclear weapons, and the guy who did it was fired from a job because he was leaking company secrets to other companies. And this guy he had no background check. He can't see classified and top secret information. And they had that ability. Like, again, the urgency.
We need a more efficient government. You want to cut waste? I'll help you do it. But change doesn't need to be chaotic or make us less safe.
I can't. This is too much like, oh, I agree with you in principle. No, they don't agree with them in principle. Elon Musk and Donald Trump, what they're doing has nothing to do with cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. Stop taking them at face value and pretending like that's really what they're doing. How is it cutting waste, fraud, or abuse to dismantle the entire Department of Education? I'll wait. It's not. They say we're cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, when in reality, they're just cutting every government program they don't like. And those government programs happen to help regular people and regulate Elon's robber baron ass. Right? So don't, I hate I agree with cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. They're not doing that. You're giving them too much credit by saying that. I'm going to lose it because, again, who actually goes after waste, fraud, and abuse? The inspectors general. They were fired by Trump in the first week. You have to say that. You have to say, Doge says they're going after waste, fraud, and abuse. They haven't found a single instance of fraud. Literally not one. Not one. By the way, we already have the Government Accountability Office. It's their job to go after waste, fraud, and abuse, not Elon's. He's completely unelected. He's the world's richest man. He's a robber baron, and he's illegally giving himself contracts. Oh my God, as he cuts everybody else's shit.
The mindless firing of people who work to protect our nuclear weapons,
okay, we're getting somewhere.
Planes from crashing, and conduct the research that finds the cure for cancer, only to rehire them 2 days later. No CEO in America could do that without being summarily fired.
Good. This is good.
Okay, so we've talked about economic security. How about national security? Let's start with the border. As someone who spent my whole career protecting our homeland, every country deserves to know who and what is coming across its border. Period. Democrats and Republicans should all be for that. But securing the border without actually fixing our broken immigration system is dealing with the symptom and not the disease. America is a nation of immigrants. We need a functional system keyed to the needs of our economy that allows vetted people to come and work here legally. So I look forward to the president's plan on that. Because here's the thing. Today's world is deeply interconnected. Migration, cyber threats, AI, environmental destruction, terrorism. One nation cannot face these issues alone. We need friends in all corners, and our safety depends on it. President Trump loves to say peace through strength. That's actually a line he stole from Ronald Reagan. But let me tell you, after the spectacle that just took place in the Oval Office last week, Reagan must be rolling in his grave. We all want an end to the war in Ukraine, but Reagan understood that true strength required America to combine our military and economic might.
Reagan committed untold war crimes around the world, including raping and killing American nuns, selling weapons to Iran to fund terrorists in Latin America, and supported the CIA selling crack cocaine to Americans for money as well. That doesn't even, I'm not even talking about the myriad crimes and genocides he supported, or the coup in Chile and the Pinochet, or the fact that, you know, he helped hollow out American labor. If somebody speaks positively of Ronald Reagan, you should consider that a personal death threat. The same as if somebody put a gun to your temple. That's a good analogy for how you should consider those kind of people.
With moral clarity. And that scene in the Oval Office wasn't just a bad episode of reality TV. It summed up Trump's whole approach to the world. He believes in cozying up to dictators like Vladimir Putin and kicking our friends like the Canadians in the teeth. He sees American leadership as merely a series of real estate transactions. As a Cold War kid, I'm thankful it was Reagan and not Trump in office in the 1980s. Trump would have lost us the Cold War.
We have, you got to hand it to George W. Bush and you got to hand it to Ronald Reagan in the same Democratic speech. Democratic. Why can't you do you got to hand it to Lyndon B. Johnson with the war on poverty, or you got to hand it to FDR with the New Deal? Zero mentions of FDR, multiple mentions of George W. Bush and Ronald Reagan. Guys, this is the core of the problem. This is the heart of the problem right here.
Donald Trump's actions suggest that in his heart, he doesn't believe we're an exceptional nation. He clearly doesn't think we should lead the world.
We're still doing this American exceptionalism crap. As we're looking around, and as I pointed out 1,000 times, there is a literal robber baron coup, and Trump is going full fascist and trying to give himself the powers of a king and ignoring the courts, and they're slashing Medicaid left and right and screwing people over and waging flat-out imperialist wars. Really, we're still going with we believe in America and they don't. We are an exceptional nation. As you watch us do the most unexceptional, barbaric, and stupid things, we're really doing this? Who is this for? Who is this for? To me, it sounds like this speech is for some Republican who died in 2004, right?
Look, America is not perfect, but I stand with the majority of Americans who believe we are still exceptional, unparalleled. And I would rather have American leadership over Chinese or Russian leadership any day of the week. Because for generations, America has offered something better. Our security and our prosperity, yes, but our democracy, our very system of government, has been the aspiration of the world. And right now, it's at risk. It's at risk when the president decides you can pick and choose what rules you want to follow, when he ignores court orders and the Constitution itself, or when elected leaders stand by and just let it happen. But it's also at risk when the president pits Americans against each other, when he demonizes those who are different and tells certain people they shouldn't be included.
I got to be honest, we got to be doing a lot more demonization on our side of the right. We got to be doing a lot more demonization of the robber barons, the billionaires, the oligarchs, the MAGA politicians. We need to increase our demonization quota 100-fold.
Because America is not just a patch of land between two oceans. We are more than that. Generations have fought and died to secure the fundamental rights that define us. Those rights and the fight for them make us who we are. We're a nation of strivers, risk takers, innovators, and we are never satisfied. That is America's superpower.
Well, I heard no mentions of universal health care. I heard no mentions of expanding Social Security or raising the minimum wage to a living wage.
They actually want to get rid of campaigning about minimum wage at all. One of the talking points of the third way guys was to say that they should stop talking about minimum wage and start talking about raising wages in a kind of general sense. Like they're literally becoming Republicans.
There was one mention of unions. I heard no mention of, hey man, this guy is a warmonger, bloodthirsty, imperialist neocon who's threatening 8 different countries right now.
She supports all of that.
And that's unacceptable. I heard no comments. I know comments about corruption or bribery or billionaires or robber barons. I mean, look, again, it's just, this is a 1994 ass speech. That's what it is. It's 1994. Does not meet the gravity of the moment remotely close. But as I pointed out, man, I don't know what you'd expect from somebody with this record. Voted for 8 of Trump's cabinet picks, voted for the Lake and Riley Act, George W. Bush National Security Advisor, first Democrat endorsed by Liz Cheney, pro-Israeli genocide, pro-TikTok ban, anti-student debt relief, anti-Medicare for all. This is what you're going to get. This is what you're going to get. Look, I'll say this as simply as I can. MAGA has gone full fascist, period, right? MAGA has gone full fascist. They are a fascist cult at this point. It is what it is. I wish that wasn't the case. It is the case. I don't want the Democrats to say, we are the conservative party. They're fascist. We're to the left of them. We're conservative. Well, as we always point out, if you give somebody the option of the original version or the diet version, they're usually going to go with the original version. You have to actually represent something different. You have to actually fight for the American people. You have to actually be against wars and in favor of social democracy and giving people health care and higher wages and paid time off, etc. And it's Bernie doing it. I think Al Green did a great job. But this right here is... this is why Chuck Schumer shouldn't be leading the party and Hakeem Jeffries shouldn't be leading the party. And this old guard has to go. By the way, a story came out just before the speech where Hakeem Jeffries was like, we want the Democrats to be sort of calm and orderly. We don't want there to be, a big show made or big protest made. This is what Hakeem Jeffries wanted. Could you imagine? Is it even possible to be any more out of touch than Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer? Is it possible? I don't think it is. The times are not normal. You have to act like they're not normal. So, F- is what I give this. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
I just... Newsom splits with Democrats on transgender athletes. It's deeply unfair. So people are going like, oh, we should get Andy Bashir because Gavin Newsom had Charlie Kirk on his thing and was talking shit about trans athletes. And I was laughing because I said they're the same guy. And people were like, no, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. Because of he vetoed it like a bill in Kentucky 2 years ago. And it's like he came out and he said there are no trans gender affirming surgeries on minors in Kentucky. And I will not support paying for inmates, reproductive. I'm sorry. I will not support paying for inmates, trans affirming care, like gender affirming care. I don't support taxpayers paying for gender affirming care. But people want to pretend like, Andy Bashir is some sort of left winger. And it's one of those really cringe things because it got popular because of Edigermentum and people boosting that dumbass motherfucker. And so now every time I criticize Andy Bashir, I have to have a bunch of people going, he's pro-trans, he's pro-trans. No, he's not. No, he's fucking not. You fell for it again. And I just tweeted this. I said, if you like Andy Bashir or Tim Walz, you are unrecoverable and should just get a fell for it again award tattooed in the middle of your forehead. Walz is probably the best the Democrats can offer. I think, and I don't say, man, sometimes I just want to be honest. I want to be honest and just be like, the gap of my knowledge with other people that engage in political discussion is so wide that it is physically painful. It gets to be painful at a certain point because it's like, okay, this person is they're coming at me with 100 miles an hour on something they have not thought about, right? And they don't know anything. So it's like, how can we even have a discussion at this point? Because I have to do a remedial thing. They'll just make statements. They'll just say Andy Bashir is pro-trans. They'll just say that because somebody tweeted that. And then it's like, no, he's not. He did the bare minimum once, and then his veto was overridden. It was a symbolic veto that was overridden. And then he's come out with multiple anti-trans kid statements, and people pretend like he's some sort of trans fucking champion. What are you talking about?
You asked what real change might
Walz
look
is
like.
bad. He's always been bad. Did you miss the campaign? Have you had a fucking brain aneurysm? He came out there in the vice presidential debate and said he would support Israel attacking Iran. He did nothing. He took all the goodwill and he squandered it. And he stood next to the Holocaust terrorist campaign. He's not our guy. We were hopeful. This is what's so confusing to me. Do you people not have memory? We were hopeful he was going to be a certain way, and then he wasn't that way. Do you understand that the hope ended when he failed? It's just God damn, dude.
And I think it's that is a really interesting question for liberals and radicals.
Somebody said Tim Walz is like a Euro sock dem. No, he is not. Unless you mean sock dem in name only, but actual neocon liberal, then yeah, he's that. I'm sorry that the Tim Walz that I was hoping for is not what emerged on the national political stage. He is not that. I don't know what else to say. Like, it's okay to think one thing and then when new information comes in, change your mind. I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, you went to the emergency room because your balls were sore. And I thought, the most likely reason for your balls to be sore is that you got kicked in the balls. And then you're like, nope, I never got kicked in the balls. My next step should be like, okay, trauma is unlikely. Let's move that down the list. And then it'll be like, let's get an X-ray or an MRI or a CAT scan and look at the testicles for cancer. And lo and behold, both of your balls are riddled with cancer. And because you're a Democrat, there's only one prescription for a Democrat. That is removing both balls and turning them back into the cucked eunuch that they are destined to be.
Because there is a hunger for change out there among millions of people who feel sort of insecure, uncertain about the future, and do want that to change. I think the change only comes through a big imaginative idea, a sort of picture of another kind of future, which gives people, which connects with that fearfulness in the back of people's minds and offers them a release from it. That's the key thing. But I think the question for liberals and radicals is that they are always suspicious of big ideas. That's what lurks underneath the liberal mindset. And the reason is, and they're quite right in a way, is look what happened last time when millions of people got swept up in a big idea. Look at the last 100 years at what happened in Russia and then in Germany. The point is that change, political change is frightening. It's scary. It's thrilling because it is dynamic and it's doing something to change the world. But it is scary because it can change things in ways where nothing is secure. It's like being in an earthquake. Even the solid ground underneath you begins to move and things dissolve that you think are solid and real. And I think that the question liberals and the left have to face at the moment is a really sort of difficult question, which is, do you really want change? Do you really want it? Because if you do, many of them might find themselves in a very uncertain world where they might lose all sorts of things. I mean, what we're talking about in many cases is people who are at the centre of society at the moment. They're not out of the margins. They would have a lot to lose from real political change because it really would change things in the structure of power. Or, and this is the brutal question, do you just want things to change a little bit? Do you just want the banks to be a little bit nicer, say? Or people to be a little more respectful of each other's identities? All of which is good. But basically, you carry on living in a nice world where you tinker with it. That's the key question. But you can't just sit there forever worrying about big ideas, because there are millions of people out there who do want change. And the key thing is, they feel they've got nothing to lose. You might have lots to lose, but they feel they've got absolutely nothing to lose. But at the moment, they're being led by the right. So things won't remain the same. But society may go off in ways that you really don't want. So what I think, in answer to your question, what you need is a powerful vision of the future, with all its dangers. But it's also quite thrilling. It would be an escape from the staticness of the world that we have today. And to do that, you've got to engage with the giant forces of power that now run the world at the moment. You might, but the key thing is in confronting those powers and trying to transform the world, you might lose a lot. This is a sort of forgotten idea, is that actually you surrender yourself up to a big idea, and in the process you might lose something. But you'd actually gain in a bigger sense because you'd change the world for the better. And I know it sounds soppy, but sort of this is the forgotten thing about politics, is that you give up some of your individualism to something bigger than yourself. You surrender yourself, and it's a lost idea. And I think, really in answer to your question, is you can spot real change happening when you see people from the liberal middle classes beginning to give themselves up to something, surrender themselves for something bigger than themselves. And at the moment, there is nothing like that in the liberal imagination.
I just feel like we're in a situation where I don't think most liberals who posture as leftists actually want change. They just don't want change. That's legitimately it. God, the Ethan Klein stuff, man. The Ethan Klein, like, they just don't want change. That's why they're like, Tim Walz and Andy Bashir. Because those guys, like, and I think the thing that's important to say about them is, like, yeah, fat guy in bed, I see that. We'll take a look at it. They don't actually want change. Like, I don't think you can wake up in the morning and go, Tim Walz, he's going to deliver change for our country. Like, that's not a thing. I think one of the things that is a weakness of mine is that I listen to what people say. Like, lying is OP. Lying is OP. If somebody says, I want change, or I'm a leftist, they get so much credibility with me from that. And then it has to slowly be chipped away before I'm like, oh, this person doesn't know what any of those things mean. I need to stop giving people the benefit of the doubt on things like that. Like, I need to stop giving people the benefit of the doubt because they call themselves a left winger or a social democrat or anything else. Like, I need to stop and just being like, okay, the average person has no idea what these words mean. Maybe they voted for Bernie Sanders in 2020 primary, but that's about it. We've got a nice hour-long video that I wanted to watch with Adam Conover about this stuff, because this is where my mind's at right now, chat. My mind is at the fact that, you know, if you guys were here when Trump was sworn in 2020, we didn't have the same like, it wasn't the same. Or sorry, if you were first here in 2019 when Trump was president, we didn't have the same attitude toward politics as we do today. Like, that's just the facts. And that's because I'm changing according to experiences that we're having.
Over. Thanks so much for joining me on the show again. Bit of a dark moment for America, safe to say. You know, if you care about this country, if you want things to be better here, well, you have a lot of reason for despair right now, I think. A lot of things that I care about very deeply are being damaged, destroyed. Things that I wanted to see improved seem like they are no longer happening. The scope of possibility in this country has suddenly narrowed in a way that I have never anticipated. You know, I did a show for Netflix a couple of years ago called The G Word about the federal government and how essential it is to our lives. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. I'm very proud of it. But I guess the show didn't work because now we are seeing a billionaire who used his money to basically install himself as president or shadow president destroy the federal government day by day without any recognition of what it actually fucking does. If you care about climate change, racism, criminal justice reform, the effort to rein in corporate power, or even something as simple as continuing to have planes land without crashing, the prospects aren't fucking great right now. Now, in the past, when faced with challenges like this, we have seen people take to the streets, the civil rights movement, the women's movement. So many times in American history, average people have stood up and demanded.
I think I'm going to make a prediction that people are not going to like, but this is going to be the administration where people understand that protests in America are no different than protests are in Iran right now or Egypt. Does anybody think that if people just went to the streets and started protesting in Iran, that it would cause the regime to fall? Does anybody think that if people just went to the streets and started protesting in Egypt, it would cause the regime to fall? Or Pakistan? You understand that there is a coercive, bloodthirsty state that's willing to use, unlimited force to suppress protests, right? So people going out to protest are literally taking their lives into their hands. This will be the presidential campaign where people finally start to understand that is the reality that is arising in America. And it's been a long, slow climb to this, or descent to this point. But now mainstream Republican politicians cheer the deaths of protesters. They're calling for the pardon of George Floyd's killer, Derek Chauvin. They celebrate mass killer, the fat-bodied Kyle Rittenhouse. Like, this is the they're celebrating. The Democrats are working hand in hand with the Republicans to criminalize protesting Israel. You guys are, the idea of just going to the streets, it's not the same.
The change that we need, to the extent that we now think of that as one of the main ways that change is made in this country. In response to the moment we're in right now, it seems like we are seeing less of that. The resistance, if not totally absent, seems suppressed, dampened, a little bit glum. So given all that we are facing, what the fuck do we actually do? That is what everyone is asking. That is what I feel is incumbent upon me to share with you. So many people come up to me when I'm, after my stand-up shows. I do a meet and greet after every stand-up show, and they say, your work has given me hope in a dark time. And I'm like, well, I'm happy to have played that role a little bit, but I don't have all the answers. I'm just feeling around for them the same as anyone else. But I am going to try to bring you some of those answers today, or at least chart a little bit of a path forward. We have an incredible guest on the show today who studies social movements and social change and how they happen and how protests have changed the world in the past and why they have failed to at times. We are going to have a fascinating conversation about that I feel confident is going to give you a path forward if that is what you personally are looking for. Before we get to that, I want to remind you that if you want to support the show and all the conversations we bring you, you can do so on Patreon. Head to patreon.com/Adam Conover. $5 a month gets you every episode of this show ad-free. And if you'd like to come see me out on the road and come say hi to me in the meet and greet line after every show, well, my stand-up tour is continuing across the country. Actually, dare I say the world. March and South change happen in this country. She's the director of the Center for Environment, Community, and Equity and professor in the School of International Service at American University. Please welcome Dr. Dana Fisher. Dana, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Thanks for having me.
So last time you were on, we were talking about
favorability of Democrats in Congress is now -20. Registered voters -26. Independents -37. Wow. Democrats is 54% disapprove, 34% approve. Republicans is 41% approve, 48% disapprove.
The climate crisis. You are actually
the stock market is having another really bad day, another down day in the stock market. Dropping. It's been accelerating. It started small, but it's accelerating. Crypto's down, oil's down. They're kind of recession. Oh, wow. Crypto dropped a nice little 1.5% back to 88,000. Looks like the markets are starting to consider that we have a recession might be on the table.
Last in a long line of climate experts I had on the show talking about what we can do to solve climate change. And we had some Pollyanna-ish solutions. People say, we'll just get some better technology. It'll be nice. And you came on to give what I felt was a very appropriate amount of doom mixed with hope of, hey, a lot of that shit's not going to work. But there are real things that we can do. It's just going to be a larger political, social, revolutionary moment than we anticipate, or that a lot of Pollyannas anticipate. Last time we talked to you was maybe about a year ago. Now we're facing even more crises than the climate crisis. We're facing I think beyond creeping authoritarianism in America, maybe like jogging authoritarianism. Maybe it's doing a nice hop and a skip.
I think it's like accelerating authoritarianism.
Accelerating is it's picking up speed.
Certainly, yes.
You wanted to slow down. It's picking up speed, and that is also countering progress on name an issue that you care about: climate. Criminal justice, any of them.
Civil rights.
All of them are being affirmatively rolled back. Mm-hmm. And so now we have even more things that we need to fight against, right? People are really in a dark place out there, people who care about those issues. And I thought it was a nice time to have you back on to talk about, like, what the fuck do we do now, right? If we needed a social revolution, people in the streets, a mass movement to stop climate change, well, now we need 6 or 7 or 8 more mass movements. And it does not seem that there is one in the offing, as far as I can tell.
Well, the good news is, so my last book before Saving Ourselves was called American Resistance, which basically documented the resistance to the Trump administration and its policies during what now I guess we have to call Trump 1.0.
Economic recession coming? I think so. Can you explain the reason why Trump might want to crash the economy? I don't know that he's trying to crash the economy. He may just be stupid. Like, it's hard to say exactly what they're trying to do, but they might be trying to do like a shock doctrine.
Right? We're now like knee deep into Trump 2.0, and actually what I've been shifting my attention to is Resistance 2.0 to see how, I mean, what I talked about in American Resistance was the way that the movements on the left joined together in a coalition to push back against the Trump administration and its policies during its first time in office. We're back here again. And one of the things that's really nice, I mean, this is the silver lining of a second Trump term, is that the left is starting to merge. And we are actually already seeing it. So, for example, today, my postdoc was sending me pictures. There were 5,000 people in the streets in D.C. We have had a protest every day in D.C. for the past 2 weeks with thousands of people in the street. Now, the media doesn't talk about it, but it's happening.
Okay, but I'm going to push back against you because I want you to counter my gloom here.
All right.
So I'm going to bring the pessimistic take. I mean, I went to the Women's March in 2017. Thank you. And, you know,
here in DC, I'm sorry, here in LA.
In LA,
right.
there were thousands in every city. There were certainly hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people.
Single day of protests in U.S. history.
Right. Nothing similar now. And so it's a little hard to hear, oh, we got 5,000 people in DC. I'm like, well, that sounds like an average day in DC, right? There's 5,000 people pissed about something in DC every day. So, you know.
I hear what you're saying, and I'll respond in this way. First of all, so last time around, there was a Women's March. The Women's March was huge and amazing. We had a People's March this time around where we had smaller numbers, but there were hundreds of thousands of people out in the streets across the country 2 days before the inauguration this time around.
Okay.
And since then, now after the first Women's March, what happened was people kind of went back to their homes.
Beta, how you doing,
a lot of them formed, chapters of Indivisible. They formed, what do they call them, huddles of the Women's March. Other groups were formed.
The Women's March was destroyed by Zionists, who basically went in and said, everybody here is an anti-Semite because they don't support Zionism. And they had a big internal fight because, that's what happened to a Women's March, which they won't talk about because that will be uncomfortable.
10 days after the first Women's March, there was the travel ban. And people got riled up and started to mobilize, and they started to go to town hall meetings. They started to cause trouble and push back against their elected officials in their communities. We're starting to see something similar. 10 days after the People's March, there was the federal freeze, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we've seen a lot of similar pushback as we did to the travel ban since then. We did not have a Women's March. We did not have that big day in the streets. Although, to be honest, the point of those types of big days in the street are all about giving people a sense to have a collective grieving, a collective moment of identity formation. I don't know that we need that this time around, to be honest with you. The thing that I'm really afraid of is that a lot of people are feeling so personally attacked because they have, trans kids who are losing their gender affirming medicine, because they are being, fired from the federal government, because, all of these different policies are being pushed back. Because they work in DEI, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the list goes on and on.
Or they're a person of color who works for an organization that suddenly had its DEI department axed.
Right. Or they're a recent arrival in the United States who came here because, we're supposed to be this great melting pot. And instead, even though they have citizenship, they're being told that they are basically not having their citizenship honored. How about that one? Yeah. Or they have family members. I mean, I have so many people I know who have family members who they're worried are going to be deported.
Yeah.
I mean, all of these people are terrified.
I think local indivisible groups are full of people that are dyed-in-the-wool Democrats who hate the Republican Party, which I think is a key source of people that are actually radicalizable. This is what they want. They're the Sam Cedar people, basically. I think the best way to understand indivisible people is they're basically Sam Cedars, in the sense that they want to beat the Republicans. So they only want to hear things that will beat the Republicans. There might even be really progressive on every policy, but the thing that they care about the most is defeating Republicans. So if you can't explain to them how you're going to not immediately defeat Republicans, then they don't want to hear it. That's the reality. So how do you use that as a left winger? Well, you need to show that you are actually the best bet of fighting the Republicans and opposing the Republicans. The centrists are going to fight against you by saying that, yes, I hate the Republicans too, but we need to appeal to the middle because otherwise we'll lose. That's always the debate that goes on. And whether these people believe those centrist lies or not, pretty much tells you what the outcome of that election is going to be. If people believe that they have to go to the right to defeat the Republicans, they're going to go to the right to defeat Republicans. If they believe the candidate is actually a supporter of the Republicans, they will probably go against him. But they are the most dupable and manipulatable people because their only goal is defeating Republicans and they don't care about anything else, truly. And that's why they're so hard to actually get on our team.
Right. And all of them are being affected in ways that are really different from 2017. And I think that what we're going to see is people working together in a really different way. But one of the things that my research has shown is that it's not necessarily going to be peaceful. And it's certainly not going to be electorally focused like last time around. Because last time around, the resistance really held the line and was like, it's all about the elections. It's all about the blue wave, right? Well, we got a blue wave. And then we got Joe Biden. And here we are again. So it's not like it was a mistake that Trump won the first time around. It was just, it was a warning.
Yeah.
And we didn't really heed the warning as well as we should have. So now this is a bigger warning.
But it still feels that the response, I mean, if you're saying that the protests that we're having now are, hey, they're sizable, the Women's March was successful to some degree. I mean, but it still brought us to this point. Like, why would we think that the amount of protest and resistance that we're seeing now would be any more effective than what happened in 2017?
Oh, no, I'm saying that this is just the beginning. I think we are, but I'm saying that there are people who are already protesting. I think that we are going to see floods of people in the streets. And I also think that we're going to see mass strikes, which is really what we need, right? I mean, because the only way to push that back against authoritarianism is like pushing back with power of people or pushing back with violence. And, you know, I'm really hoping we're not going to see violence. But I mean, one of the things that I did at the People's March is I surveyed the people in the streets and I asked them about their perspectives on political violence. And surprisingly enough, in contrast to data that I had collected right before the election, a third of the people at the People's March, and this was like nice middle-aged women with their pussy hats on. Some of them had like American flag hats.
They're still wearing pussy hats?
Oh, they are. They had, some of them brushed them
You
up.
know, God bless them. Like, I'm not a downer on the pussy hat. It's cute. It's nice. What's our problem with the pussy hat?
I mean, I was quoted in the Washington Post as saying, we don't need another pussy hat back in 2018. So like people think of me as a pussy hat hater. I don't hate them. I think that they're part of collective identity formation. And actually, I loved seeing them in the streets. You know,
I saw someone tweet something like, we need to get over disliking the protests of others because they're cringe. Like, it's okay for them to be you need to build political coalition with people who make you cringe.
Oh, you
just because someone's older than you and a little more square, they're not quite hip, they're wearing a dorky hat, you know, they're wearing a t-shirt. Like, let's still find political, you know, solidarity with them for the love of God.
By the way, I'm totally on board with that point, but the problem that we have here is that you have to have a vision. I don't care if somebody's cringe or old or whatever the fuck. I don't care if someone is earnest. I don't care. However, discipline is good. Optics are important. Aesthetics matter. So there has to be a balance between the different factors here. And the one thing that fascists understand is that aesthetics matter.
Be solidarity for sure. I mean, and there were a lot of women who had basically knitted these, they did the same pussy design in red, white, and blue. And they're like, this is American. Resistance is American. And I was like, you know what, ladies? I love it, right? So that was great to see. But what I also asked these people, and these are like, you know, your middle-aged, you know, engaged people, most of them, and highly educated. And I asked them, you know, this question that we adapted from a national survey. And the question was, you know, to what degree do you agree or disagree with his statement that political violence may be necessary to protect democracy? And a third of the people at the People's March said they agreed or strongly agreed with that statement, which is a huge shift from what we have seen. Back during the American Values Survey, the last time they fielded it, was only 8% of Democrats. And let me just say, at the People's March, it was 93% of the people in the crowds voted for Kamala Harris. So these are Democrats. And they are starting to shift their opinion. So that's the thing I'm worried about. But I'm not saying we have enough people in the streets right now. I'm saying there are enough people who are starting to feel threatened that they're going to push back. And, you know, what we can hope for is they push back in a peaceful way. But one of the things that I would just say for anybody who's feeling like they're alone and they're only one under attack, they need to look to their left and look to their right, because so many people are feeling isolated and afraid right now. And like we talked about last time, the best thing you can do in that moment is get angry.
Yeah.
Because anger helps to unify our energy and help us to think through how we push back.
But get angry with other people. Don't get angry by yourself.
Right,
scrolling.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, or you turn into Luigi, and that's not that we don't. Nobody wants that.
Well,
let's just
some people do want that. I mean, you're talking about the rise of political violence in America, and like, that killing was an act of political violence. It was explicitly political assassination.
Well, I mean, and at the People's March, I can't tell you how many signs, pink glitter signs that said "Free Luigi" did we see in the crowd.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about this. Like, Luigi has not been convicted. All right. The only evidence that we have right now that is definitive was that he was at a hostel in New York City. Like, that's, okay, he was in the city. But there's a grainy video where the person who did the shooting is covered up. We don't have definitive evidence that he did it. Okay. He didn't confess. He says he's not guilty. So personally, I think those people are saying free Luigi because they don't think he did it. The evidence isn't strong enough for them. And we'll wait and see what happens at trial. I don't think that's so unreasonable to expect.
It's really surprising. I mean, I did not expect that, right? I expected the hats. I figured the hats would be back. But,
you should have expected the free Luigi signs. I mean, the man became a folk hero. I mean, the comments of this video are going to be like, "I love Luigi. Feel free to literally, like, if
you can give money to him now. Apparently, he is taking donations while he's in jail.
I mean, that says so much about the mood in America, and that's not a mood I'm going to contradict. That's people's actual feeling, right?
Yeah.
But what do you credit to, average folks saying, political violence might be necessary on a large scale? Why would that shift happen?
I think it's happening because people don't believe in the elections anymore. I mean, first of all, I think that during the first Trump administration, lots of people were feeling really uncomfortable. And there were all these discussions in the media. Oh, why aren't people having a general strike? Why aren't people getting violent in the streets? I mean, it was like Matt Iglesias was saying it. Michelle Goldberg at the New York Times was saying it. And, I was the person who was like collecting the data in the street. So I always was called to say, what do you think, Dana? And I was like, well, I think that people are really like laser focused on the elections. Well, we have now a person in the White House who said that the last election in 2024 was the last election that anybody had to vote in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know that kind of our democratic elections are, fraught. And we know a lot of people are losing their jobs. And
first of all, the first thing to know is they're not democratic, right? So that's number one. We have an electoral college system that is undemocratic, right? We have a Senate system that's undemocratic. We have a party system that's undemocratic. Like, we literally just had a Democratic nominee that got 0 primary votes. So in what way is it democratic? Well, you get to vote. That doesn't mean it's democratic.
And losing their livelihoods, and the idea that they're going to be like, oh, I'll just wait until 2026. It'll all be okay. I can just hold my breath. My kids don't need to eat till then. That's like unfathomable. So this shift towards violence makes sense because we know from research that when people feel like they have no other choice, that's when they get violent. That's when they get aggressive. That's when they get really confrontational. What my hope is that people choose like a more confrontational but peaceful option. Nonviolent civil disobedience. Let's give it all a try. Let's go there first, right? But there are a lot of guns in our country, and that's concern-worthy.
You're making me think about how, the Women's March was in the wake of Barack Obama's presidency. Like, I think it's really almost hard to remember what it was like to live under Barack Obama for 8 years. And the sort of encompassing ideology of the time among Democrats was, hey, democracy works.
Mm-hmm.
We elected this guy. America elected a black president for the first time.
We were a post-racial society. Remember, we were post-racial.
Yeah. That was that was busted very early in his presidency. But that was the vibe, right? America is getting better. The long arc of history bends towards justice. Mm-hmm. All of that. And then Donald Trump is elected, and it seems like a violation of those principles. How could this happen?
Right.
And that, to me, is what sent people into the streets. It was the sort of rupture of it. Now, why was he elected? It was because a bunch of the country didn't feel that the system was, they were like, democracy fucking sucks. I don't like it. I want this authoritarian figure, right? But now, 8 years after he was elected for the first time, now that he's been elected a second time, I think maybe Democrats are starting to feel, or liberals or leftists, or that, and everybody, left of center.
Moderate and to the left.
Yeah, exactly. Is starting to feel like, hold on, the system brought us this
I honestly think, and I mean this very completely, is if you say stuff like they just said, like moderate and people further to the left, your political analysis has already become fatally flawed, because you are assuming that everybody is sitting there in a firm ideological position that they hold because of rational, articulatable reasons. That is not true. I want you to understand that is not correct. All right. 90% of people are unideological. I will say that again. 90% of people cannot define or explain their coherent political ideology. This is a political science fact. All right. This is probably the most important political science fact you're ever going to learn. Now, does that mean that people don't have political opinions? No, they do. This is what we so kindly call idiosyncratic opinion. What does that mean? It means they pulled it out of their fucking ass. Somebody said something that they thought sounded good at some point and they went along with it. Most political discussions are basically having a political discussion with a random number generator combined with Chat GPT. People are voting based on their identities. And being a Democrat is one of their more important identities, or being a Republican is an important identity, right? They're not voting based on some sort of coherent ideological project. You might do that. Most people are not. This is very important to understand. It's very important to understand this. And the moment you understand this, now you can start talking about politics and electoral politics in a coherent fashion, which is people vote with their hearts, not their heads. Sometimes their hearts are boiling over with rage. Sometimes their hearts are boiling with love, but they vote with their hearts, not their heads. Stop talking like they're voting with their heads. Now, does that mean you shouldn't have policies? No. Actually, on the contrary, having a strong platform and program gets you the ideological core of your movement of people that are fired up. That 10% is the core of your movement. The 10% of people that actually have an ideological core, the more you get those people fired up, the more soldiers you have, the more the vibes are up, the more the energy is up. So, and then people will hear a thing. They see that passionate energy. They see that intensity. They see that vision and they jump on the bandwagon. That's what makes people want to fight for a cause. And this is why Donald Trump is winning, because that's what he gave the right. And anybody who was sympathetic to any of the schlock he was selling jumped on the bandwagon. He didn't do it by appealing to Democrats. He didn't do it by appealing to unity. He did it the opposite, which is passionate intensity. And that's why Barack Obama won. Passionate intensity. Now, it was all bullshit, just like it is with Trump, but people believed in change. They had a what I would consider an intellectual romance with Obama. The vibes were up. The passion was up. I don't mean it sexual. I mean it in the sense of this mystical yearning for the America they imagined that Barack Obama winning would create, which is this post-racial, empathetic togetherness. And it was, it was ad libs. You wrote in what policies you thought might achieve that in your own mind. This is, and like, so many are thinking like, oh, there are moderates and moderates have moderate takes. No, they don't. No, they don't. No, they fucking don't. Just because someone identifies as moderate doesn't mean they're a centrist on policies. It doesn't mean that. It never has and it never will. But yet so many people make errors because they continually are committed to this idea that moderate equals moderate on policy. It is not the case. And I just don't understand, and I don't know how people can study and think about politics seriously and for an extended period of time and not know this information. Mike, my introduction to you was the Project Veritas tricked you, showed up with you to meet AOC. That's not what happened. What happened was I went to do canvassing operations with Nina Turner, and AOC is a mutual of mine, and she was there, so I wanted to go and meet with her and have a quick conversation. And then there was a guy with a Black Lives Matter shirt, and he said, "Oh, are you going to meet AOC?" I said, "Yeah, she's out here in the parking lot." That's it. That's literally it. Then he tried to go like, "I'm with Project Veritas," and we all laughed at him. And I heckled him, and then his AOC staff was like, "Don't even heckle him, just ignore him." So I was like, okay. And he failed, and she laughed at him, and he walked away, and he posted a video that had like 100 views. And so I laughed about how much of a failure he was. And then I interviewed AOC talking about The video is extremely prescient, by the way. It's from 2020 or something. And it's me talking about how AIPAC and the Israeli lobby is targeting progressives and how it's going to get worse in the future. And I was dead fucking right. And I laughed about that on my stream, and the million hate watchers, the 5 to 10 hate watchers from Destiny's community saw that and went, "Look, Mike tricked her and brought Project Veritas over with AOC, and he got so tricked." And it's like, that never happened, and nobody cares. The only people that have ever seen that video are literally Destiny fans trying to come up with some excuse for why I'm bad. It's one of the most pathetic fucking things I've ever seen in my life. They help boost a Project Veritas video just to try to own me. Just like right now, they're working with Elon Musk to go after Hassan because they don't care about anything. They don't care about politics or policies. They're fucking losers. It's your fault because the guy couldn't have been able to figure out the elevator on his own. Yeah, being nice to a guy in person means that I'm a bad guy. I should have been like the average Destiny canvasser and sexually harassed every woman. Do you think we should create a completely new party? I don't know, man. I don't know. I think we should, personally, but...
You could structure it. You just... I'm gonna go.
If you're trying to do buybacks based on information that's like not publicly available, that would be considered insider trading.
He's a fucking moron. He's a complete fucking moron. This has been extensively studied. You schedule the trades publicly, and you also have buybacks. That's not inside information, but it causes a short-term spike. He's stupid. He's fucking stupid. How is he still confused? Directors sell more shares after buyback announcement. The company says buy, but insiders sell buybacks. In a 2017 to 2018 study, SEC researchers found that insiders were twice as likely to sell on the days following buyback announcements as they were in the days leading up to the announcements. The average sale was also 5 times larger than before the announcement at about 500,000. Hey, Destiny, you're fucking stupid. You're stupid. You're a stupid fuckhead. Keep studying, sex pest.
But there's a whole other list of rules and regulations, everything around what's considered insider trading on. And we're in the Trump administration, so maybe there's maybe there's not. Maybe we don't do insider trading anymore. There are so many levels of argument right now because everything about it, what he's saying is just so stupid. Also, like the idea that you could either do stock buybacks or reinvest in your company. There's not always good investments to make in your company. Insofar as there is a...
Again, he finally approached it, and he's still getting it wrong. He's still getting it wrong. The point is, you dumb ass, that stock buybacks create an adverse interest between the director and the company, where there are marginal investments that may be profitable for the company long term. They will get you less return than just buying back stock now and locking it in, which leads to a bias in favor of more buybacks for more executive compensation and less investing in marginal investments, which results economy-wide in increased income inequality and less research and development because you've created a adverse agent interest. I can't make it any simpler than that. And this is not my opinion. This is basically a major front of economic research backed up by many academics, many regulatory agencies. This is basic shit. I'm sorry you're stupid. I don't know how else to explain it to you. You uneducated sexual pest.
Better investment to make than just doing a stock buyback than you would do the investment of the company. But that's what you would expect any business to do. That's what the shareholders would want the business to do. The idea that you're doing buybacks instead of doing profitable investments is retarded. Shareholders wouldn't want you to do that. Big wig CEOs wouldn't want you to do that.
This is why he's stupid, because legitimately he's low IQ. There's nothing more to say. He's low IQ. The answer is executives have an interest for immediate returns, not long-term investments.
If you invest in, say, a drug, that could take a decade to come to market. Are you going to be at the company in a decade? So all you have now is a big R&D expenditure, and maybe in the future it returns. Or you can buy the stock back right now.
Stock owners wouldn't want you, like nobody would want you to do that. They say, oh no, reinvest in the company. That'd be
In
better.
fact, he's so stupid. There is an entire drug company that does zero R&D. None. Zero. One of the major drug companies does zero R&D. Zero R&D. In fact, it was a Wall Street darling because they would be like, oh, they're not wasting any money on R&D. You know what they would do? They would go and they would buy out small companies that developed a drug. And then they would raise prices on the drug during the patent period. That was their entire drug company strategy. Again, he doesn't know anything about dick. And this motherfucker has people who watch him. It's crazy.
Yes, you can. Oh my God, it's just the most. Oh my God, Patty, do you know how it works?
I don't. When these people sell their capital, eventually they will pay taxes on it. But again, if you want to talk
Why
about
would they sell? Why would they sell? You borrow against the value of your shares.
Yeah, it is both stock buybacks and buy, borrow, die. He doesn't know. These are super basic concepts, right? I've talked about them extensively.
Super basic concepts. I didn't know about the whole borrowing against your investments to never realize gains or whatever. I didn't know about that whole scheme at the time. But that has nothing to do with stock buybacks versus paying dividends versus anything else. Like,
you still don't get it. Stock buybacks run up the price of the shares, which increases the value of the shares, which means the shares are worth more, which means you have more money, and then you borrow against the value of your shares instead of paying taxes. But if you got dividends paid, that would be a taxable event. So the stock buyback hurts the company and it hurts society because it hurts the company by incentivizing stock buybacks and lowering the cash on the balance sheet instead of making productive investments in the economy. And it hurts taxation because the stock's rising in value doesn't result in a taxable event, but gives you more income via borrowing. So it hurts the country on the side of you don't pay any fucking taxes. And it hurts the country on the side of the company is not making as much investments. It is completely relevant. You're stupid.
He doesn't know. These are super basic concepts. Right?
They're getting this take from Sam Cedar. He says buybacks are manipulative. He probably does.
Right?
Yeah, I'm getting this from Sam Cedar. I'm getting it from a 2017 study that I knew about from the SEC. This isn't Sam Cedar. This is the Securities and Exchange Commission. Stock buybacks and corporate cash outs, which, by the way, was in 2018, which is why I knew about it when I debated Destiny in 2019. I don't know why he's so confused about this. He's still trying to pretend he didn't lose this debate.
I've talked about them extensively a million times over. He doesn't know, but it's okay. Normally, if you don't know something, what you're supposed to do is be like, I don't really know this. Can you explain it to me? What he does is dominate. He wants to dominate the conversation. So while he's talking to someone that knows better than he...
Why would a company do stock buybacks actually? Just to decrease their net profits and pay less in taxes? It's a way of giving money back to your investors. Let's say that you made a fuck ton of money last year, but you don't really have any good projects to invest it in. Well, instead of just sitting on a bunch of cash, you want people to invest in your company, so you pay it back to your shareholders. So you could either pay a dividend to everybody that owns some of your stock, or you could go to the market and you could buy up some of your stock, and by buying some of the stock and removing the stock from the market, it increases the value of the rest of the stock, right? Because I believe that when a company buys shares, I think that the shares are retired or whatever. So if there's 100 shares on the market and I buy 50 of them, and then I retire those shares, the 50 remaining double in value, basically. You're returning money to the people.
That's actually not true, because he doesn't understand. Again, he doesn't understand this, and this is like a rudimentary 8th grade level understanding. Actually, what happens when you burn cash off the balance sheet, it makes the value per share, the assets per share, go down. So you're actually hurting the company a little bit. So it doesn't double in value, because the value of a company is partially derived on the book value of the assets. And when you buy stock, you're basically burning money. So this is not totally right. It does increase the value of the shares by reducing the float. He's right about that, but it doesn't double because book value goes down. So again, it's bad for the company. And also, you're not returning money to the investors because you're buying shares, thereby turning people from investors into the company to strangers. Do you understand? So you're actually only returning money to the investors if they do what I said you said they couldn't do, which is borrow against the value of their shares, right? They don't actually get the value unless they take advantage of it by using buy, borrow, die, which you didn't know about.
he does, okay, that knows more about this. And by the way, ironically enough, he's also undermining the head of the SEC's the head of the SEC agreeing with AOC in that congressional hearing, okay? But the reason why I think this is important to understand, like, in terms of his style and how he presents himself to an audience, and like why his audience in a cultish way think he's true.
Wait, did I miss the part where Hassan showed Destiny doesn't know what he's talking about in terms of his own knowledge on the issue? No, he's just like linking like headlines. One had to do with buy, borrow, die, which has nothing to do with stock buybacks and nothing to do with dividends. So I don't know why he linked this at all. But
really brilliant is because when he doesn't know something,
you know a lot about stock buybacks, but you didn't know about borrowing against your assets, which I just explained. It does matter. God, he's stupid.
Angry in a very confident manner, and before you say, "Oh, you do that too, dog,"
Is there an issue with mass stock buybacks and that they overcommit to the company, sometimes taking out loans to do the buyback? I remember people saying many companies were over leveraged on debt from it for COVID. Could you do that if you thought your company was insanely undervalued?
Like, this is kind of this is how Destiny works, right? Which is, and this is why he thinks he's smart. Like, this is why he legitimately thinks he's smart. And this is why he's Dunning-Kruger, right? Which is, this is just a factual question. This is not something that you just like sit back and think and you come up with the right answer. The answer is, so the first, by the way, it shouldn't take you this long to figure out. Can you borrow money and then spend that money? Yes. So right off the bat, unless there's a regulation prohibiting you from doing the action, you can do the action. So can you have bonds on your, so in other words, can you borrow money as a company and buy back your stock with your company? The answer is, of course you can. Of course you can.
Could you borrow money if interest rates were favorable enough to do a stock buyback? Maybe you could. I don't know, actually. That sounds like a very, I feel like it could be risky. I don't know if you're allowed to do that. I don't know if companies do that. I don't see a reason why that would be impossible. That sounds like a very spooky gamble, though. But I guess you could do that. But I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know about that.
Literally will immediately say, "Oh, I didn't know that. I'm wrong. I'm sorry." There are probably 700,000 examples of this, okay? I'm wrong all the time. Like, the thing I hate about that, as a matter of fact, is when I say something and I'm wrong and I get corrected, and I say, "Oh, I'm wrong. My bad."
GE shows why stock buybacks aren't always as good as dividends. Now that General Electric might begin buying back stock again, it's more sign the company has repaired its balance sheet. It's also a reminder that dividends and stock buybacks are two different things. The conglomerate said on Tuesday the board authorized spending $3 billion on buybacks. That gives the company the ability to repurchase shares if management chooses. GE has been out of the buyback game for a while for good reason. A legacy of poorly timed acquisitions and stock buybacks left the company with too much debt, so it had to use the cash it generated to pay that down instead of sending it back to shareholders. GE used to be a big buyer of its own stock. Between 2012 and 2017, the company spent roughly $32 billion to repurchase its shares, net of any cash coming in from stock issuance. BE share count dropped by roughly 235 million shares over that span. GE was purchasing a lot of stock back when shares were worth north of $230. Calculations aren't perfect or easy, but GE's average purchase price was likely above $200 a share. GE shares are about $93 today, so the company clearly overpaid for its own stock. All that money was going out the door or into the stock, even though the company had an enormous burden of debt. Coming up with the exact number is difficult because much of it was linked to GE Capital, the industrial business's vast finance arm, which borrowed money to lend consumers to buy its turbines, engines, and other products, among other operations. Starting around 2018, new management at GE decided to tackle that debt load. So, like, they were literally buying back their stock as they had massive debt. He's actually very fucking stupid. All right, I'm done with that. He's too stupid.
Semi-legitimately or legitimately, right? Like, people
popular vote, right?
Yeah, it was like it happened, you know, and so that means the system doesn't work, right? That means there's something wrong with the system. And by the way, there are plenty of things that are wrong with the system. If you look at the fact that, you know, Trump is seizing all this power from Congress and Congress is doing nothing to stop it.
Right. They've gone performatively to a bunch of doorways of agencies and been refused entry and have done nothing.
Yeah, well, and that's the Democrats, right?
Yeah. But that's congressional Democrats.
But the idea of the Constitution was that a president who was trying to grab power would be stopped by a Congress that's jealous of its power. That was like literally the idea.
Yeah.
Oh, even if you're in our party, we don't want you to, you know, do those things because this is Congress's power, to the purse strings and all that. And Congress has abdicated that power because partisan politics has become more important than, you know, that structure. And that's a way that the system is just like affirmatively broken. So I can see why, you know, formerly milquetoast liberals who are like, no, yes, I listen to crooked media and I vote and, you know, we'll solve it through this and believe in American democracy, are now like, hey man, fuck that. Like it didn't really seem to work. We gave it a shot. You know, pod didn't save America. No offense to John Lovett, who throws wonderful parties and is a nice man, and I've been on their shows before and whatever. But you know, it didn't fucking work, right? Here we are. And so maybe there's a little bit of that energy coming out.
Well, I think that there's absolutely that energy. I think there's also a lot of people who are sick of, for example, Pod Save America blamed the left for the success of Donald Trump in the last election.
Did they?
Oh, yeah, they did. And a lot of people, by the way, are annoyed with them about that right now, but we won't go there.
We can go wherever you want. It's fine. We can start a beef. That does good on YouTube. Yeah, fuck your parties, John Lovett. Fuck you, man. That's all right. It's all good. But I mean, we'll do a little theatrical battle here.
but anyway,
hit me.
But so the deal is that I think a lot of people who are more left-leaning and more progressive are just sick of being blamed and being told that it's because we want to have more progressive policies. We want to have more social security in our country. And the idea that now no social security is even safe, right? Yeah. And the Democrats and those checks and balances that are supposed to protect everybody, like bullshit, right? It's basically smoke and mirrors. So I think that there are a lot of people who are completely disillusioned with what they expected America to be. I mean, I have to say that I feel that way. I mean, and I study it, and it's just like, I mean, I have been out in the streets, so many protests, collecting so much data. And I originally, when I got those data and I saw how many people were like, political violence may be necessary. I mean, and it was interesting because it was like a lot of folks who were LGBTQIA who were in the crowd. And there were a lot of people there were these counter protesters who came to the People's March in Washington, D.C., all mogged up. They were there for the inauguration. They're like, oh, let's go heckle people before we go and celebrate, right? And they were like, you know what? We are going to fuck them up if they come near our stage, right? And it was like a really different vibe than I'm sure you felt at the Women's March back in 2017. That was not the vibe. I mean, we were all like, oh, look, it's Madonna, you know?
Israel stood still and held a sign. We all made nice signs.
Exactly, nice signs. But I think that there are a lot of people who do not think that making a nice sign, even if it's got pink glitter, is going to be enough, right? I mean, and I think that the truth is it never was enough.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the unfortunate truth. It's not enough just to go out and vote, even every 2 years. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just not really enough. I mean, and there's not a lot of solidarity for the people who have been suffering and having to push back more consistently. I mean, and that is one of the things that I've written about a lot in my work. And, I talk about that a bunch in Saving Ourselves in terms of thinking about building solidarity around climate and around justice and equity and labor and all of that. I think that message is even more necessary now than it was when I wrote the book, because solidarity is going to be necessary to get us through this.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, or we just put our hands up. But this is not like one of those benign autocrats, right? I think everybody should know that by now, right?
First, a word from our sponsor, Supremacy 94.
A lot of people are just going to lose everything. And we need to figure out how we're going to support that.
A lot of people already have.
Yeah. Support them, not that. We have to support the people who are losing things and figure out how to push back. I mean, and I just don't think that taking a Saturday when, everybody's off work anyway, making a pretty sign and maybe marching and chanting, maybe knitting a hat, that's not enough. But I think a lot of people recognize that. And it's a little scary because what comes next, I mean, we know if you think about history, what comes next when that kind of stuff doesn't work and democracy doesn't work for you, it can be dark, but it also can be really reaffirming solidarity and thinking through how we get to the other side, which is what we need right now. We need to get to the other side here and we need to do it together. You cannot do it alone, and you can't do.
The thing that I think my main disagreement with them is based on the idea of revolutionary intent is not evidencing to me. And do you guys really think the United States Constitution is legitimately a good constitution at this point? Constitutional, we need to rip it up. It's time for it to go in the museum, like the Articles of Confederation. If you want to keep your stupid fucking states, fine. But we don't need to have a Senate. We don't need to have an electoral college. You want to have a presidential fucking thing? Fine. We'll have a president, and that president needs to have it needs to have a majority of the votes to win. We'll have multiple rounds.
You know, we'll do a runoff. We're not going to do a thing where we, you know, like the political system we have now is non-functional. And I don't think, I'm not hearing any of this kind of stuff. And it's common sense.
Do it like this. You know, I keep telling my students, like, you put down your thumb.
Yeah.
That's my scrolling image, right?
Yeah.
But put down the phone, start talking to your friends and neighbors.
Yeah. Posting is not activism is a really hard thing to remember. I've spent as much time as anybody like locked on my back, like scrolling, retweeting. This is unconstitutional.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares what you tweet.
Well, I mean, you do it in your echo chamber, right? So those people are like, yeah, Adam, go. But like, we need to get out and we need to build bridges, right? And you can't build bridges in your little silos.
Folks, this week's episode is sponsored.
I think the main problem, I agree with that completely, and I've been considering that. I've been considering that. Like, obviously, you know, you grow your silo as much as you want, but my main issue is I don't agree that with just this mindless Popular Front idea. It was tried after 2016, and it led to liberal co-option. And I think for me, preventing liberal co-option is just as important as, you know, standing up to the right, because they make it impossible.
Do you think that political violence has like any efficacy for change? Like you're out there and you're asking people, what is your opinion of political violence? And they say it might be necessary. My other question is, the right uses political violence constantly and did even during Donald Trump's presidency. I mean, there's Charlottesville attack on the, on the counter protesters there, right? And during the Unite the Right rally, and the January 6th, like that's political violence.
Kyle Rittenhouse, remember Kyle Rittenhouse?
Yeah, absolutely. Who went out to murder protesters.
And he got off.
It seems like one side might have the monopoly on political violence, especially.
And it seems like they're winning. Odd. Like, political violence is so counterproductive. How come the right wing is winning? If political violence is so counterproductive, why is Erdogan winning? If political violence is so counterproductive, why are the fascists in Germany winning right after one of their members, drives over a bunch of people? The political violence is not effective. Like, so this is not I'm not advocating for it, by the way. I'm just saying that the idea that in and of itself it is always ineffective is like obviously silly. Like, America was founded on political violence. What do you think we celebrate on the 4th of July? Why do you think we have explosions in the air? Why do you think our national anthem is about a battle? It's political violence.
When that side, now controls the military and
they control everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, right? So I think, so I would just say with regard to political violence so historically we have seen, and when I say historically, I mean like before the election, my data showed, and other people who have studied this showed that the people who are most likely to support political violence were right-leaning.
Mm-hmm.
They were young, they were male, they were less educated. And this is something that I thought was interesting. And they had participated in protests. But when we say protests, they had participated in things like Unite the Right,
mm-hmm.
right? These kinds of right-leaning protests.
Yeah.
So what we see now since the election, and this is the data I have are from before the January 6ers were pardoned, right? Before Trump basically fired all these people. They call it now Bloody Thursday, but it's really like Bloody Thursday, Bloody Friday. It's continued through the weekend. People in the federal government are being laid off in like by the more than dozens, like hundreds, thousands even, right? But so before that, at the time of the People's March, we found that the people who are most likely to support political violence, all of a sudden, they continue to be less educated. They continue to be younger. Gender no longer really was an issue in terms of like saying more male, more likely to support violence. And they were the most left-leaning, right? Which is kind of what we saw with those folks who were the Antifa back in the day.
Sure.
But I think that section of the left is growing. And it's very likely to continue growing. I have some colleagues that I work with quite closely in the federal government. Well, they are right now, but many of them.
Oh, so she's a Fed. Okay, cool.
Them believe they'll be losing their jobs within the next few weeks. If not
God, I hope so.
Next week. And many of them were telling me, as I was talking to them in the past week, they were saying, you should check out the federal Reddit. There's a subreddit just for federal workers.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, many of whom served in the military, right? These are people who were in the military who had a fast lane into the federal government to work there.
Yeah.
They're like, you know, I have a gun and I know how to protect democracy because that's what I used to do for other countries, but maybe I need to do it here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's chilling, the language that's going on there.
Yeah.
But if we do not take that seriously, I mean, this is one of the things that I talked about in my TED Talk around saving ourselves. If we do not face reality of where we are right now, so many of us are going to be caught off guard that we will not be prepared for what's coming. So I think that the biggest thing we need to do right now is we need to be prepared with regard to the climate crisis. We need to be prepared with this polycrisis of the crisis of democracy in America and recognize it. And don't just be like, okay, I mean, you know, the 2026 election is coming. Sure. I mean, I just got a text from Barack Obama just last week saying, give me money and that'll fix everything.
You know,
those text messages drive me crazy.
Yeah. And by the way, that's it's not Barack Obama. It's some fucking
I know.
fundraiser hired by a fundraiser using a photo, you know, but it's part of the political system.
Oh, yeah. And I wrote a book about that one, too. I mean, I mean, it is. But, you know, the idea that we have people who are political leaders in our country who are still letting that process happen, that instrumental process that is supposed to protect our democracy, which is absolutely unfucking enough.
People get those texts and they feel insulted at this point. Like,
and angry, right?
You're asking me for money. Like, what? For what?
Yeah.
I gave you
how
money
about
last time, motherfucker.
I just lost my job and you want me to give you money because the election is going to save us?
Yeah.
How dare you?
Because you think that money is going to do anything? I mean, sure, Elon Musk spent a lot of money, but like Kamala spent so much money. It was completely to put an ad on the side of the Sphere in Las Vegas. Like it just said Harris Walls on the side of the Sphere. People looked at that and went, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll vote for it." It says Harris Walls on the side of the Sphere. That's cool. They put it on a big sphere. Yeah, okay, no, I guess that'll help make my life better if I vote for her. Like, what the fuck is the money even for? You know?
I mean, the other thing though, I think, is that the left, and I've written like 3 books on this subject, but it gets worse and worse. But one of the things that the left has historically done is they really consider voters as these instrumental cogs in the process of democracy, rather than actually thinking through, like, engaging and embracing people on the left, which is this.
Well, of course. Why would you? Everybody's an individual. Everybody can be broken down by an algorithmic score. Everybody, we know exactly where everybody is because we have a tracker on their phone. Why the fuck would you talk to them as a collective? Why would you make promises when you can hyper target their anxieties with a direct ad on their phone? Why treat them like a fucking human?
It's real.
By the way, chat, I just realized something. We are 3 hours and 30 minutes into the stream. If you enjoy the content, please consider supporting it by subscribing at tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 sub. If you have Amazon Prime, you can attach that to your Twitch account. You get 1 free sub a month. That's your Twitch Prime sub. We are currently sitting at 6878 on the sub count. 6878 on the sub count. Not bad. Dropped a little bit. Maybe I should lower my goal. Maybe I should lower my goal a bit. Oh my God, we just had 100 bomb. Maybe I shouldn't lower my goal. Maybe I shouldn't lower my goal. Holy fucking shit. How do you say your name? How do you say your name? I'm illiterate. I learned whole language reading style. I'm sorry, chat. I don't know how to say this. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's just a bunch of vowels and an X. Zuai? I don't know how. Thank you so much for the 100 gifted subs. Also, chat, I want to tell you something. It's very important that you pay for your own subscription. This is a really underestimated important thing to do. Is if you enjoy the stream, the best thing you can do is go down, hit subscribe, select tier 3, and then select 6 months, and then hit subscribe. That is the best way to support the stream. And then the thing is to make sure that your debit or credit card or PayPal that is attached to Twitch has an expiration date as far in the future as you can. So, you know, if it's like 2032 expiration date, that's, you know, be great. 2042, that would be even better. Honestly, I would try to make it something that never expires. Okay. And then just forget about it. Just forget about it. Don't think about it again. Anyway, chat, thank you so much for supporting the stream. It really does matter quite a bit. Can we get some bended knees for the 100 gifted subs? I don't feel like you guys are hyped enough. Why the fuck are you guys not hyping? Hype, get fucking hype. I see so many of you people that have had gifted subs for like 18 months in a row, and you're acting like you are entitled to it. Can you get some fucking hype in here? If you got gifted a sub, can you say thank you? The entitlement of you people. I'm hyped. I'm just working also. Thank you, Food Farmer. I don't know if we could give as many gifted subs to these people. Have you even said thank you? We're gonna have to talk about I don't know if you care about peace. You're not saying thank you. Suki Saperstein, thank you for the 20 tier ones. Okay, I have to admit, all right, I'm gonna say my most right-wing coded opinion. My most right-wing coded opinion. Can you imagine being an Azov battalion guy right now? Imagine being an Azov battalion guy right now. Like you're an Azov battalion guy, so you're a super Nazi, right? And you think like, I'm white, I'm part of the West. And then Donald Trump gets elected. You probably celebrated because you recognize him as a fellow white supremacist, racist, fascist. And then he's like, I'm going to give unlimited money to Israel. Israel gets everything they want, but Ukraine, you don't get anything. I'm stopping the aid. No more aid for you. Israel, everything. Azov battalion, nothing. They're Nazis. Putin's right. Imagine being an Azov battalion guy right now. That's kind of funny, a little bit, right? That's a little bit. Like when you have, my favorite thing about Ukrainian Nazis, they're like Clandis Owens, the non-white white supremacists, right? Like a lot of Slavic fascists think they're white because they watched enough American TV. We're like, in America, if you're a Pole or a Russian, you know, you're in the white club. But in like European racism, you ain't white. So a lot of these Ukrainians watched a lot of TV and convinced themselves they're white, right? And in reality, the old school Nazis, and at the time, like when Steven Bandera was trying to ally with the Nazis, they were like, no, bro, you're not white. You're Ukrainian. You're not white. He'd be like, please. He was so desperate to swear allegiance to Hitler. Steven Bandera was like, please, please. And Hitler just looked down at him and said, no, you're not white. They're like, but we helped you kill so many Jews. That's the Ukrainian nationalist that they declared a hero of the Ukraine. It's incredible how it's happening again. Gopnik said Ukrainian white status revoked. Trump to revoke legal status for 240,000. White status revoked. Just like the rich white gays are going to have their shit revoked. Did you guys see that the support for gay marriage has plummeted since the election? Did you guys see that? They went after trans people and a lot of gays helped. And then now immediately, surprise, surprise, they're going after the gays. Who could have believed it? White status revoked. Incredible.
Disconnect from the way that the right does it, right?
Anyway,
the right really goes where people...
guys, gals, non-binary pals for all the support. Suki, Calm Like a Tom, all the people who drop subs. Thank you so much for subbing, resubbing. You guys are the best. I really do appreciate you all. Thank you for helping me hit the sub goal. We made it back over 7,000, which is a crazy, unsupportable number. Like I have a daily sub goal of 100, and I think we have like smashed that goal for years at this point. I think it's few and far between where we haven't gotten at least like 150, 200, if not more a day. I just use that as a motivator for myself to chill. That's it. But you guys and gals and non-binary pals have just been so supportive of the community. And I want to say this about trans people. I'm not going to waver on trans rights. Like a lot of liberals are starting to waver. A lot of people are out there going, Andy Bashir is good on trans rights. Well, Andy Bashir came out and said he doesn't supporting gender affirming care for trans criminals. And that is one of the most cowardly things and I would call it genocidal positions, because trans people in prison, if they're not treated as legitimately their gender, they become one of the worst victims of sexual assault and rape in prison. It is a existential threat to every trans person because anyone could be arrested. You don't have to actually have done anything to be arrested. There's a saying in the legal profession that I try to explain to people. You can beat the rap, but you can't beat the ride. There's a horrible thing called V coding, which I don't want you to I mean, unless you feel that you could withstand the most horrifying thing you've ever heard in your life, I wouldn't even look it up. Let's just say it's a systemic abuse of trans people in prison. And so I'm going to stand with trans people. I'm not going to pretend Andy Bashir is a good guy because he vetoed some legislation and then his veto was immediately overridden. These people are not on our side, and we need to have higher standards. It is 2025. We're not voting for a single politician at the national level for over a year. And that's for the primary, okay? We need to stop, and I need you to stop trying to surrender to people. I need you to start looking and dreaming big. If you're out there looking for JB Pritzker or whoever else liberal fuck, you are the problem. I need you to be a socialist. I need you to be uncompromising. I need you to call for leadership. The Assange stream that Trump flipped on the Department of Education dismantling
are and tries to connect with them and makes them feel like their grievances are heard, whether or not they're actually going to rule in a way that actually supports.
I did a video about this. They actually organize, you know, they have Moms for Liberty, the NRA, like these groups that you can join, and you can go to a meeting, and then you can go to a rally.
People, and then you can, they have like snacks, and sometimes they have potlucks.
You can go, they'll be like, hey, at 4 p.m. we're going to go throw potatoes at some trans kids. You want to come? It's going to be fun. Then we're going to get beer. And you everybody's going to adopt a voting, a voting like Dropbox, and they're going to sit there and heckle people of color if they try to submit a ballot, right? Stuff like that. Yeah, I know all about those. But like the thing is, on the left, instead, we have these Zoom calls. And it's like, oh, I was in a Zoom. Like all these famous people did Zoom. I did one of those.
Yeah. I mean, and like, sure, okay, it's nice to feel like you got to participate in a Zoom. The idea that is the same as like feeling the solidarity of like throwing potatoes with people or going to a potluck or like having somebody who's connected to your kid and your kid's school or where you decide to like practice your religion. Or, one of those, like, it's just really different and it's not really embedded in community.
How much do you think, there's a little bit of a tangent, but how much do you think the liberal left problem has been caused by Zoom? Because we are the ones who like during the pandemic, right? The pandemic's very serious. We got to stay on Zoom. We can't go out, right? And then I just know a lot of people who never stopped being on Zoom all day. Like I'm still working from home. Every single thing I do is on Zoom. Liberals tend to be the ones who get mad when they are forced to return to their office. And I completely understand the reasons for that, commuting and childcare and all those sorts of things, right? But it is also important as part of human life to leave your house and be social connection and be in a room with other people, or even just walk down the street to be a social animal instead of an animal in your cave, to go be in the marketplace in public and make those real life connections. And just the idea of like, oh yeah, I just joined a Zoom link. I had my camera off, and I just I watched it.
Blackboxing is also the worst, right?
Yeah.
I taught on Zoom and teaching the black boxes. We had a snowstorm, a freak snowstorm in DC last week. And so I had to teach on Zoom, and I was like, no, there will be no black boxes in here because like there's nothing worse than talking about like what you're supposed to read and just staring at a screen with black boxes. Right?
Yeah, you need to be in a classroom or in a therapy session or in a union meeting. You kind of need to be trapped in there with the other people and with the subject matter. Everywhere you look, you're still in the classroom.
Right.
If you're in your house and it's like, oh, the entire thing is happening on one little screen,
and you can turn it off and go get a drink or be like,
or you just glance over there. There's my poster. There's my bookshelf. There's my other stuff. It's like you're not forced to be engaged with the thing or forced to be engaged with other people. And plenty of good uses of the technology, but I feel like we've allowed ourselves to be atomized in this way.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned before having to build solidarity across kind of and sometimes with peoples who may make you uncomfortable and trying to think about how to create those kinds of tenuous connections, right? And I think that we have seen increasingly the left rely on using those tenuous, using these digital connectors when there are these tenuous connections to be built. I mean, and we saw it before Zoom. I mean, one of the things that I talked about before was like during previous campaigns where instead of trying to build real connections in communities that were like purple, what we ended up doing is importing people from blue states to go do that hard work, right? So you bring in strangers. But one of the things that we know is...
Oh, yeah. This is actually a good point. Like, the Democratic Party will take volunteers from, say, New York and drive them to Pennsylvania in buses to do the door knocking because they don't have the volunteers locally. And that was true of the Hillary Clinton campaign. You know what that wasn't true of? The Barack Obama campaign. They had enough volunteers in the purple state. That wasn't true of the Bernie campaign. They had enough volunteers in the red states. Is the Elon honeymoon starting to erode? Oh, yeah. Trump told the cabinet today they're in charge of their departments, not Elon Musk. Trump said that Musk can make recommendations, but not issue unilateral decisions on staffing and policy. Musk was also in the room. Okay, I need to short Tesla because the moment Donald Trump fires Musk, Tesla's going to drop 20% in a single day. It's going to be the greatest opportunity to make money. This is not financial advice. I'm just telling you what's going to happen. The moment that Elon Musk gets fired, the moment that Tesla will fall off a cliff. Is it already down 6.4%? No, I'm missing my chance. It's down so much. Why didn't I short? Why didn't I short Tesla? Oh my God, it's down so much. Oh my God. I said on election day it was such a fucking that it was such stupid bubble and it's just crashing. Why didn't I short? I swear to God I hate my executive dysfunction. I hate it so much. Like, it doesn't even matter though, because it can go a lot lower than this, but this I missed so much. Oh my God, it fell so much. Holy shit, it fell so much. It's down 30% in the last month. That's so much. All of the Nvidia rebound has gone too. Oh my God. Wow, I wonder how much money he's lost. Finally, the Tesla turning point may be here. Rating upgrade. Tesla sales crash continues in Europe with Germany down 70% because he supported AfD. I need to short. This company's going to zero, dude. I think Tesla's might actually go to zero. The Cybertruck plus everyone hating him. Elon might actually go broke. Maybe not like broke, but go from like richest man in the world to like a couple $1 billion of stuff he sold. And if Tesla goes low enough, then he'll lose Twitter as well. His other businesses are what? SpaceX? Didn't they just fail another launch? SpaceX launch canceled, or did it actually happen? Or okay, wait, it did happen? Okay, hold on. Oh, wait. Oh, it's later. It's later today. Okay, so they canceled it and they rescheduled. A Mexican billionaire canceled all contracts with Starlink. I am so mad I didn't short Tesla. I'm so mad I didn't short Tesla. I am an idiot. I would have made hundreds of thousands of dollars in like a month. What is wrong with me?
Yesterday, President Trump...
Oh, no, fuck you.
People go...
Okay, that's stupid.
Cannot do the same work that friends and neighbors do, right? It doesn't work the same way. Knocking on some sort of random person's door or having some random person come to your door and be like, let me tell you who you should vote for. That doesn't work the same way.
I did that in the election and I'm happy I did.
I don't think it works. I agree. You need long conversations and invitations to community. And I don't know how we do that anymore.
I'm happy I did what I could, but I also really saw the limits of me going to a working class neighborhood in a Phoenix suburb and knocking on people's doors. And I don't even speak the same language as many of the people whose doors I knocked versus now, by the way, I was doing it as part of an organization that was like a worker led organization that, you know, had people from that community doing the same thing. So, you know, it wasn't a waste of time, but like that as an overall strategy of, hey, let's pay door knockers, let's, you know, run ads, all that sort of thing, rather than actually creating community infrastructure and bottom up infrastructure where the people who are in the communities are the ones telling you, the party, or you, the political organization, what the priority is.
Yeah, and telling you how to solve the problems that your community's feeling.
Not a gambler. FOMO sucks, sure, but I feel like better mental health not to be constantly accepted with money markets. Oh no, definitely. I don't want to do day trading. I'm not saying I want to do day trading. It's just I see some opportunities that are clearly just there, which is like if the economy goes into recession, Tesla is going to zero. It's a fake company with no growth potential. You know what I mean? It's just done.
Choose your character.
These women have never played a video game in their life, except for AMC. This is the content I want to watch.
All right, today we're gonna try flippity flappies, swiggle wiggets, shit cake. We're gonna let an American try it, see what they think. This was a fucking fan favorite in London. The Queen of England loved this before she fell down the fucking steps. All right, here we go. Let's take a little bit of a bite of that. Take a bite of that. All right, here we go. Big bite, big bite. That tastes like fucking dog shit. What? Type shit. What the fuck did you say? I said it tastes like fucking dog shit. Are you taking a piss? It's the best fucking piece of shit you've ever eaten. You fucking idiot. Are you taking a fucking piss?
This is the content I want to watch right now. British culture celebrated. Yeah, I'm no life. I can't do it. I need to, like, one of the things I'm most jealous about Hassan is his accents.
This country has, as you may know, this country has had some issues with race.
White people. White people.
White people.
White people.
White people.
White people. I love you.
I'm white and 35.
Is this an African-American woman, or is that a Caucasian woman?
I would say that visibly she would be identified as white by people who see her.
What is a white person? Well, to be white means all slurs are funny.
People ask me, are you white? I say, it depends on the month, I guess.
Are you white?
Yeah, I would say so. You don't think so? When you look at me on YouTube, you don't think I'm a white guy?
Join famously wealthy YouTuber FD Signifier. I just had so much hope for the white race because of you. So to know that you're like cosplaying as a white guy, white fishing, it did hurt.
As he navigates the white experience.
You know, you got the vibes. You give off some of the vibes. It's not a compliment.
Yeah, is anti-white rhetoric real?
Yeah.
When I see comments of people saying, I'm white and I liked this video and stuff like that, I'm like, shut up, dude.
Surprisingly enough, he does this by.
Thank God I ain't white. I could say nigga. Nigga, yeah, I'm black. I could say nigga. Nigga, real nigga. Bitch nigga.
I think the one thing I would say about that trailer looks fun. A lot of cool people in it. One of the things I would say about that is white people invented that word. You know what I mean? Like, that's white people's word. That's why white people exist in the first place. They invented that word. And like, there's no non-cringe way to be white. That's inherently what whiteness is. Whiteness is being square. That's what it means. It means the status quo. It means inside the lines. It means you're in charge. It means you're the boss. That's what being white is. You can't be a cool white guy because whiteness is anti-cool. That's what it is. That's what people get so mad about. They want to be in power, but they don't want the exprobrium of being the boss. They don't want people to like hate them for being in charge, but they want to be in charge.
As I was saying, I was just out in Altadena, right? So Altadena was like devastated by wildfire. People in Altadena are going to have specific needs right now. And I know that there are a number of mutual aid organizations and other groups, like we saw World Central Kitchen and other good groups out there today.
Socialist vaccine.
But like the idea that somebody from some other state's going to come in and like just plop in there and be like, okay, let me help you. Okay, bye-bye. I'm going home. I mean, that never works. It never has worked. And the idea was that it used to be, well, the left had the numbers. So you didn't, you could just be like, okay, we get enough numbers. And they did that. That's how Barack Obama won. They did the math, right? But the math doesn't work anymore. And more importantly, the people on the left are just fed up with being like treated like a replaceable cog in this machine that is not working.
Yeah.
And that is where solidarity comes in, because until we build real solidarity, we're going to lose. And if we lose, well, everybody loses, really.
And you're not just talking about losing the election. You're talking about losing
democracy, losing, losing the planet. I mean, it's all, at this point, it's all on the line, right?
Yeah.
That's the unfortunate truth. But I mean, that's why I call myself the apocalyptic optimist, right? Because I believe that we're going to need to get bad before they get better. I mean, and research shows us that we don't really build the kinds of bonds we need and do the work that's necessary to make the types of social change that we need until things get really bad. If you think about the Great Depression, that was the only time that people pushed back. And it stopped us from having like a shift to socialism in our country, which may or may not have been the best thing.
What stopped us from having a shift to socialism?
Because people kind of pushed back, and and FDR basically responded, and that was when we had the New Deal, and the New Deal stopped that process.
Stop the process of the shift to socialism.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of people.
Why we say that America is exceptional, right? That labor failed to get us all the way to socialism because we had this New Deal that rebuilt America better.
A lot of people at the time.
I don't agree with that, because I think America was just as likely to fall into fascism, if not more likely to fall into fascism, than it would be to fall into socialism at that time. And I think that's the reality. But you certainly it's a hypothetical world, right? Like, who knows?
Called what FDR was doing socialism, and a lot of the.
By the way, a lot of people in FDR's administration, even at the highest levels, thought they were going to, strangle capitalism in the crib. Like, they thought that they were going to slowly transition out of capitalism, like literally. So that was senior, economists within, you could say that they were naive or whatever, but there was legitimately people there making economic decisions that were saying that. This is what I don't think people really study what was going on in the 30s. I have a feeling a lot of people talk about the New Deal who've done nothing but read Wikipedia pages. Like, I'm starting to suspect that may be the case. I'm trying to think of like a place I can get something quick about this.
Programs were socialist programs, broadly speaking.
But we didn't become like a democratic socialist society with multiple parties and stuff like that. Imagine more than two parties.
And there were people who were pushing to make that happen. And FDR, to head that off, was forced to do the programs of the New Deal.
Exactly. I mean, and there were so many people out of work, and there were, and we had like environmental devastation after, the Dust Bowl, right? And we put people to work, and we built these like Service Corps programs that, they did all these amazing things. They built highways, they built trains, they planted lots and lots of trees.
It was only possible because, though, people were suffering and dying and starving.
Exactly.
And there was mass homelessness, and it was a completely unrecognizable world to us that allowed that shift to happen, allowed FDR to come in and say, well, what if the government just employed everybody? What if we, massively pushed money through the system? And that was a different concept of what government could do. We've just now had the opposite revolution. I mean, Trump was elected.
I'm thinking about what I could do to. I'm gonna have to think deeply, because I don't have my library anymore. It's rotting in some box somewhere, in a bunch of boxes somewhere.
And is now waging a campaign of, hey, what if we don't have government at all? What if we fire everybody willy-nilly? Doesn't matter what they did. We don't even need to know what they did. We're just going to fire them all. We're going to burn the whole thing to the ground, like the fire in Altadena and the Palisades. That's what we're going to do to the government.
And it's going on right this moment.
Yeah.
Right this moment. And it's going to continue. I mean, I heard somebody was talking about like the Project 2025 like stages, and we're in stage 2. There are multiple stages to address the problem of the government, right? And it's going to get bigger and bigger. And more people are going to be out of work. And fewer of the systems that we all rely on. Like, I know of a friend who posted recently that they got a letter about how the services that their kid had in the public schools because they had a learning disability, those are gone.
Yeah.
I mean, and Department of Education, well, from what I understand, like Elon Musk has been, posting about how, that doesn't exist anymore. USAID is already gone. Department of Education will be gone. AmeriCorps, which I work with a lot, probably gone soon. I mean, so all of these systems, and the question of what will actually work and how it will actually work and what our taxes are going to be paying, those are interesting questions.
But if your thesis is that things have to get worse before they get better, and they are about to get worse, sounds like they would need to be worse for like a decade before we get, the counteraction of people really feeling how bad things are going to get and having a political, you know, like the Depression, Great Depression was not short. You know, Herbert Hoover was in office for a full term. And, you know, we had before that decades and decades of, you know, corrupt oligarchic government, right, in this country. And so are we in for, do we really need to feel the effects of the federal government being decimated? I mean, do we need millions of people to be dying of, you know, tainted meat again before we are able to start inspecting meat?
Well, I mean, here's the question: is how long do we think it will last to feel the effects of these changes that Donald Trump is making in his administration? I don't think we're talking 10 years. I think we're talking less than 2.
Okay.
And I mean, quite frankly, I believe that we will be seeing people mobilizing the streets in much more like en masse and in much more aggressive ways within the next 6 months is my expectation. I don't think we're going to wait that long. I mean, we have what, you know, in the environmental world, they have this phrase called the polycrisis, which is all about all these different crises that will happen simultaneously. And many of them
you know what the crisis is called? It's called capitalism. There, I helped you.
Talking about like climate change and ecological degradation, et cetera, and so forth, right? But I actually think that we have this crisis of democracy that's coming and going to crash into these other crises that we're experiencing, including the climate crisis, which California has experienced, Florida has experienced, North Carolina has experienced. I mean, it's happened all over the country where there are pockets of people who have experienced the climate crisis. That's going to happen more and more because we haven't addressed the problem. And that will be merging with all of these people who expect FEMA is going to help them. FEMA is going to be gone. So, I mean, so the idea that it's going to take years, I don't think so. Like, can we get to the other side quickly? I don't know. And to what degree can we really believe that these people are going to leave peacefully, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, can we really imagine that?
The problem is, are the people who are affected by the changes or by the climate crisis or by Trump's actions, are they going to pin the blame properly? I mean, here in Los Angeles, we've got, you know, tens of thousands of people newly homeless.
Right.
The conversation is not about the climate crisis. You know, that is not, hey, what is LA going to do about the climate crisis? It's complaining about which reservoir had how much water in it and where the fire trucks were, you know, and there is there's improvements to be made, right? But like the problem was the pattern of development. And
I mean, yes, but also no. You know, the United States has like hundreds of strategic heavy bombers, and we have how many water bombers, right? Like that were available to fight the fires. Like the United States of America is not hardened, not even close. All right, chat. I'm good calling it there. But before we go, I wanted to show you guys something to make you feel a little bit better. Support for Israel plummets among Americans, reaching the lowest in 25 years of Gallup's annual tracking, and below 50%. Support for Israel among Democratic voters has crashed, leaving the AIPAC-aligned Democratic leadership totally out of step with their party. Democrat sympathies in the Middle East situation 2001 to 2025. Democrats 59% are more sympathetic to the Palestinians and only 21% more sympathetic with the Israelis. It is crashing off a cliff. Thank you, Donald Trump. Thank you, Netanyahu. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I'm sorry we didn't get to the drama with Hassan and Ethan Klein and Elon. We'll talk about that tomorrow. I wanted to let it cook a little bit more. I want to let it cook a little bit more before I throw my 2 cents in. You know, I feel like it was a little bit too early for me to get a good drama take. Tomorrow will be better. So, and it's not just drama. It's like, oh my God, they're actually going to try to kill me and Hassan. Like, obviously Hassan is the major target, but I'm definitely the kind of like bonus objective. All right, everybody. I'll see you all soon. And free Palestine.
Transfer your might. Don't cling so hard to your possessions, for you have nothing if you have no rights. So come, brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. Listening to So comrades, come and rally, for this is the time and place. Join the Central Committee and unite the human race. Break down the billionaire system. Bring down the bourgeoisie. To see the end of capitalism, we must set Luigi free. Demand that health care be provided, as well as housing and food security. We'll build high-speed rails and revolutions with heads of billionaires and solidarity. So come, brothers and sisters, through this struggle we'll carry on. Our gifts up to Central Committee is one step closer to righting the wrong.